It's the clash of the premium sedans, Mercedes E-Class versus BMW 5 Series versus Audi A6 versus Lexus ES. Quite expensive, high quality, a lot of driving comfort, and they all indeed come close. But who could be the winner? We'll find out in this special episode. Let's go! We have come to Stuttgart, Germany for you to cover the car that stands for the Mercedes brand like nothing else. It's the Mercedes E-Class, of course, and now available as the recent E-Class facelift. And here on Autogefühl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars. With Thomas in front of the camera and Jonas behind the camera, we're going to take a detailed look. The new exterior, interior, new features and infotainment, and of course the driving experience with a new engine as well, mild hybrid technology. And we'll also take a short comparing look to the Estate, the T model, which is also available, once again, as the all-terrain version. And a lot more. Behind us, by the way, the Mercedes Museum. Always worth a visit. Very interesting cars right there. But today, it's about the new one. So, please tune in Full HD, full screen, and full length. Let's go! In the front we can see, yes, a new front grille. This is the avant-garde trim level. There is no entry level below that, so they start a little bit more upmarket. And you can see it has a wider stance now. It looks sportier, vertical fins, and also a whole different front grille form. There will also be the AMG line exterior, then with the diamond pin grille. And still, however, there's also the exclusive exterior, and that will then feature the very classic front grille together with the standing upright Mercedes star. However, avant-garde and AMG line, the more modern variants, so to say. And these two also come with these power dome accentuations there on the hood. The classic exclusive line does not have that. In any case, the headlamps now are a little bit slimmer as for the housing. LED is standard and optional. You can also see them right here. The multi-beam LED also features more high beam function. They now differentiate the different models in their car lineup not by the daytime running light. It was before, for example, C-Class 1, E-Class 2 stripe, S-Class 3 stripes. In future it will be like this now, always one stripe, but then the dots below that. Here are 2 dots for the E-Class, C-Class then 1 dot, and S-Class will then feature 3 dots. That's the new lighting logic, so to say. With the new off-road package, the new Mercedes E-Class facelift will also feature double portal axles. Wait a minute. Wrong car. 4.92 meters, 16'1" or 194 inches is the length of the Mercedes E-Class sedan, or also the T model, the Estate, which is of course always available then with a different shape right there. This sedan here, the classic sedan shape with the round shoulder right there, dropping line. I think it's the most beautiful solution when you put the design dropping line on the height of the door handles right here, dividing in light and shadow. And by the way, yeah, the G-Class 6x6 behind us there for the special vehicle. Yes, there will be the all-terrain version of the E-Class. That one will still be available, then with crossover wheel claddings right there. However, this one here, the really classic style, and the all-terrain version also only available for the Estate. Here, new aero wheels, 18-inch. You can see they're a little bit closed. It's better for the wind efficiency, and it also has this unique styling. talking about unique styling, there are two favorite colors for me in the Mercedes lineup. One is, of course, brilliant blue, because that's the striking Thomas blue. You know, the Kevin side blue is a little bit darker one. Brilliant blue is the really bright, screaming out one, but still very elegant. And this one here, the mountain grey Magno with this matte finish. So it really feels differently, it looks differently, it cleans almost itself, you know, like a Lotus effect in the rain. The only disadvantage is when you have small scratches, you cannot polish that, so always have to keep an eye on your precious belonging in this case. There will be different suspensions available, more to that very soon, and of course also new engines, more updates right there. Let's tune further into the details. Tell me, which one would you go for? Sedan, estate, coupe, convertible? They all get somewhat the same facelift changes. In the rear, a clear design change. Before, only coupe and convertible had these horizontal tail lamps, and sedan, also estate, were more vertical. Now, for the whole model lineup, more horizontal lamps, and also with the new LED structure on the inside. So it definitely looks sleeker than before. However, critics could say that it almost looks like a, you know, A-class sedan or something from the rear. So it's harder to differentiate the cars from the different size in the model lineup. But I think if you directly compare them, the sedan looks definitely a little bit, you know, sportier and more modern from the rear now. However, in the lower part here, massive case of, you know, of fake exhaust tips here. These are really completely fake, so I had to make it a little bit longer today because this is like a clear case for the Special Forces unit of the Autogefühl fake exhaust police. And it also says here in the number plate SEK. Well, it's of course for E-Klasse, E-Class, but SEK is also the Sondereinsatzkommando in Germany. That's the SWAT team of the police. So maybe it fits to the Autogefühl Sondereinsatzkommando for the fake exhaust tips. Well, and then I wanted to talk about the suspensions, because you start with the base suspension, which now sits 50 millimeters lower for more wind efficiency again. And the interesting thing is, we've been driving this base suspension together with 20-inch wheels in a prototype vehicle in Vegas, and the comfort was superb. And 20-inch with the base suspension would be like the least comfortable non-AMG setup. And it was still super comfortable, and that really speaks for the vehicle. Optional, you can get an adaptive suspension. This increases the comfort even further. And optional, also equipped with this fellow here today, the adaptive air suspension, which gives you this carpet ride. You know, really cool, definitely. But if you want to save some money, you can easily stick with the base suspension and you'll be just fine. And to show you even more variation, first of all, a silver vehicle, and this one here is also the AMG line. So then we have all three front grills. You can see here the diamond pin grill. So this is my favorite front grill, so to say, but the new avant-garde grill is also very interesting. And the AMG line also has these power dome accentuations. Furthermore, at this vehicle we have 19-inch wheels, also in these new aero styles, so new aerodynamic styles. Indeed, they optimize the wind flow. And I think this really nice look. Here again then the AMG 19-inch wheels. This, by the way, also a plug-in hybrid, so we can also later compare the trunk. Well, and yeah, there's yet another front grille, and that is special with the all-terrain. Just available for the estate version, for the T-mod model. And you can see here the all-terrain has this front grille with the horizontal fins, two, and with these gaps inside. And of course this crossover look here already beginning with the black contrast in the lower part, and we have it as a white vehicle here, but also with the red one, so we show you even more colors. But even more interesting, of course, the all-terrain in the side profile. And here, first of all, this is of course the estate, different shape to the sedan, and this is also the all-terrain version here with the crossover cladding. And together, in this case then, so of course you can pick it, you don't have to, 20-inch AMG wheels. So this off-road look, but then one of the sportiest wheels. I mean, it has something special, you know, not necessarily logic, but yeah, style for sure. So what do you think? Do you like this all-terrain version here? And this is how the normal estate looks like here, for example, with the exclusive line also with the classic Mercedes star. But then here not in the all-terrain plastic cladding look, just with this, continuing roofline right here. The sedan, of course, always has some kind of more elegance, but of course the real use of both the all-terrain and the normal estate version is what we have on the inside, and the interior part will also take a short comparing look. And the estate from the rear, you can see here also the tail lamps, also now horizontal right there. Not a very spectacular look. The sedan, once again, a little bit more elegant from the rear, but again, more about the inside. And also massive fake exhaust, Autogefühl fake exhaust police case, definitely. And the all-terrain here from the rear, I'll crouch over. This is very interesting because there's an additional cover right here, a black one, then crossover cladding once again, and also this kind of off-road diffuser or cover style in the lower part. Engines, the main scheme here is electrification. So there are petrol engines, 2-liter 4-cylinder and 3-liter 6-cylinder. And of course the AMG, the 63, the 4-liter V8. And there are diesels also, 2-liter 4-cylinder and 3-liter 6-cylinder. And both for petrol and diesel, that's especially here with Mercedes. So also for diesels, plug-in hybrid versions are available. And today we're going to test a very special engine that is not even out on the market at the time we're recording this video here. And let's now dig into the details. Because this here is the E350, 272 horsepower plus 15 horsepower electric boost, and optional additional, even more electric boost than for a very short time. So a mild hybrid technology, the strongest mild hybrid and the strongest 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine. There will also be the E300, 258 horsepower with mild hybrid, and the E200, 197 horsepower plus mild hybrid optional all-wheel drive. Then the 3-liter 6-cylinder turbo petrol engine is the E450 with 367 horsepower. Then the E53, 435 horsepower, and the E63, 571 or 612 SS model. And the plug-in hybrid version will be called E300E. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder, that's then the PHEV. So, on the diesel side, 2-liter 4-cylinder E200D, 160 horsepower, E220D, 194 horsepower. No mild hybrid for that. But there will be a new E300D, 265 horsepower, mild hybrid diesel, interesting. And the E300DE, the plug-in hybrid diesel. And then the 3-liter 6-cylinder diesels, E350D, 286 horsepower, E400D, 340 horsepower, all-wheel drive. And by the way, although the standard suspension now sits lower and gives you a little firmer ride, but still comfortable as we tested earlier, you can basically de-pick that and still go for the standard ride height as an option without any extra cost. The key, slim and light, hasn't changed but still beautiful. Keyless entry, put your hand on the outside to close, on the inside and to open. Door closing sound. Yeah, that's nice and solid. Then inside of the doors, plush materials right there, here as well with nice leatherette cover. Also new decor elements available. Here, for example, a matte wood. Very beautiful choice. Open cell. So, yeah, very stylish. This is the optional Burmester 3D surround system. So expensive, but so cool. And here, you can see this here. This comes out or goes in again, depending on if you activate sound or not. Yeah, a very fancy feature. Then you can see more of the new decor elements right here. Of course, more to pick from. Also soft touch at the dashboard here, at least a little bit. It's, something between hard and soft. Then one of the key features is the new steering wheel. There are two available. Either this one with the closed structure, so to say. And then there's a new AMG steering wheel, which goes like this in two horizontal fins and has a gap in between. But what they have in common is, first of all, capacitive function. So for the updated Distronic adaptive cruise control and also lane keeping assist, that you just touch the steering wheel and then the car still knows you're there. And there are no false positives when running straight that the car says, oh, keep your hands in the steering wheel, you're not there anymore. So capacitive, that's a important new function. And they also remove the physical buttons. They have these pads here now, and I think that looks less stylish and less quality-wise. You do get something of a haptical feedback. You can also push that whole thing in. I mean, see, it's just basically one field, but then the car knows where you are exactly with your finger. I can't say that I really like what they've done there. So, but I think we gotta have to live with it. The AMG steering wheel looks a little bit, sportier, definitely. The styling is also not the problem, but the handling rather. Here, which is pretty cool, a good feedback here also from the shifting pedals for the automatic gearbox. These are really, really fancy. Then the seats, different seat forms available. There are, for example, all sport seats with the AMG line that automatically come with dynamic microfiber on the inside and article leatherette on the outside. This is the animal skin spec here at the moment, but in the E-Class, Mercedes offers a lot of choices. For example, also a fabric article mix. Full article in different colors, beige, brown, black and so on. So you can easily go for an animal-free seat, and even in different colors and different specs. That's all available. Then let's get inside. Typical E-Class is that, of course, we have a lot of comfort, even if we're tall. 1.86 meters or 6'1". Yeah, my size probably won't change until the rest of my life. Yeah, movie character. So here, headroom still there, although we have the panoramic roof here. So there's a little bit more headroom if you leave that out. And again, it's a car to relax, definitely. You know what you get when buying an E-Class in this case. And you, of course, also get a little bit more comfort than you would get one in the C-Class. Soon also more about the new changes, because one of the other critical new things in the interiors is always digital. No analog gauges anymore, but they come in two different sizes. Soon more to that. The rest is here. When we control the seat, we can also put just the upper part a little bit out like this. That's this part then right here. So this inside of the door control is, nice to see when you're sitting here, but for reviewing, so tough to do. And then another interior sidekick. Here you can see the AMG steering wheel in the new style, flat bottom, and then you can see these two horizontal layers for the capacitive buttons. So you have basically the very same controls. It's just that they are visually split, and it looks just a little bit sportier, as we used to from the AMG steering wheels. I think it's a very, very nice design. Just again, the discussion about the capacitive button, that remains the same. And by the way, in this interior, you can also see there's a dark wood insert here for the decor elements. Again, in an open cell matte style. Also a very interesting solution. Quite beautiful. And if you're worried about the sun, there are also the shades. And what I found so cool with this very equipped vehicle is also that you have a bright upper ceiling here. This, even if you would not have the panoramic roof, makes the interior so bright. Now to the interior overview of this facelift, and before we talk about the new screens here, let me just sum up this interior for you. Again, this was this design scheme of sensual purity, that's what behind it. So, on the one hand, clear lines, on the other hand, some curved lines, and the ambient lighting is below that for this sensual experience. Very interesting. Then this cap here on top of the screens. So this is so fundamentally different, for example, to an Audi A6, which has this very clean German design language, almost Bauhaus style. But then this one here, definitely evoking more emotions, but some say it's overloaded. So it really depends on, but definitely between Mercedes and Audi design on the interior, I think that's like A and Z. In BMW, I think, is somewhat in the middle of that. Pretty interesting. Now, as this car was launched as the facelift, saw that, and it was like, all comes digital now, no analog gauges anymore. And everyone like, wow, that's always like this. And then, there will be still extras, German premium manufacturers. So it starts with smaller screens, 10.25 inch 2 times, so smaller than this, So for example, also a taxi Mercedes E-Class will get the smaller screens as standard, and then optional these 2x 12.3 inch, and then you have it like this. But both feature the MBUX system with the voice activation input. And let's try some. Hey Mercedes.
How may I help you?
Drive me to Berlin.
Starting route guidance to Berlin.
Hey Mercedes.
How may I help you?
Open the sunroof.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again, please?
Open the sunroof. That usually worked so far very well. I don't know. Well, I guess it always depends also on the web connection. So, like opening the sunroof usually works, and so far always worked great with every vehicle. Like activating the head-up display. So most of the time this system works very good, but you see it also has somewhat its limits. Yeah, we've recently seen the Polestar 2 with the Google integration. That one worked even better. So before I said this was among the best. The Tesla one is also very good, but the Polestar one with the Android integration is probably the best now and even leads this one here. Then rest of the interior. Here we still have some buttons left, for example, for the climate control. Good to have that still manual. Also, always a nice feature that the ambient lighting switches accordingly. When you put it to the blue, it goes a little bit bluish. And when you put it to the red, it appears then red for a little bit warmer. Then again, the matte wood decor is really cool that you don't have so much, black panel lacquer. Inductive charging is possible. And that now USB-C charging. Connection for the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, adaptive cup holders. Then you have this trackpad here. You can use this one to control the screen, but you can also use the touch screen directly, of course. Driving modes, we'll talk about that when we drive the car. Here you can see it's one with the air suspension because you can pump it up, y'all. And then this split armrest right here with now 2 USB-C chargers underneath and some space. So the left instrument screen is not touch. It's the only thing that is not touch here, but there's basically touch at the steering wheel here to pick up the phone, for example, and to cancel it. Then the volume button, you can slide it up like this, but good thing is when you just press it here in the lower part, you mute it or unmute it again. So, and also when you just press in the upper part, it's also then the mute button. So yeah, it doesn't feel too bad, but the buttons before just came a little bit more natural, so to say. In the top part then here, there's another possibility to control the screen on the right or to go back again. There were these touchpads before. I think that's not the super big change. On the left side then, with your left thumb, you can control the left screen because that's not with touch. Home and also the cruise control is here on the steering wheel. So I think we will get used to it. And for these capacitive buttons, I think they have a very good haptical feedback. So it's not as bad as I originally thought. But still, I was more a fan of the gauges they had before on the steering wheel. And now, I said the AMG steering wheel looks a little bit sportier. And this one here now has a big, layer right here. And then there's this gap here in the lower part. And, remember that from the S-Class, the initial steering wheel from the S-Class, where someone said it looks like a clown's face, and then you always saw a clown's face? So either skip this few seconds now, or I'm just telling you now, if you look at this gap here in the lower part, what do you think could that be? Yeah, and then you'll always see it again. I'll leave the rest to your imagination. Now these new gauges here, 12.3 inch, left side, and with my left thumb I can control this. You can also put the map here, for example. It says here Mercedes-Benz Werk Untertürkheim, so that's the main plant in Untertürkheim. Is a, city part of Stuttgart, and like this. You can also change it, have the map all over the place, so they are very clear to read, all the displays here. You can see also for the mild hybrid system says EQ power or charge. You can see when you can recuperate from this mild hybrid system or when you get a little boost of it. And you can also switch everything you want to see here, and for example also go for a different style. This is a sports gauge, but you can also go, for example, with the classic gauges, which are fitting a little bit more to the E-Class scheme. Or what's your take on that? Redundant controls here for the screen, so either where I touch, then the lower trackpad is possible, or also with my right thumb on the steering wheel, and they all do the same. And I mean, why not? So everyone can pick the favorite way of controlling this here. The GPS looks quite cool and is also responsive enough. Here the Neckar, that's the river that flows through Stuttgart city. You know, Stuttgart in the, south of Germany. Then back to the main menu. For example, we have the Apple CarPlay mounted right here. You can connect new devices. That's, for example, the iPhone X, but there's also the hotkey here. And it doesn't use all the way of the screen, but I think it's definitely enough. Like this. And of course, that's the thing I was actually waiting for. Just the end of the song. Wow. What a great surround sound. One of the shortest but most effective music tests with the end, just with the, piano sounds here of that song. Wow. I mean, it's one of the best sound systems that is out there. No doubt about that. So expensive, but really worth it when you can actually, still afford with the expensive E-Class to go for it. Comfort features here, by the way, you can go for that. It's again an option. For example, with the seat massage here, also together with seat heating. The seat massage they offer here in the E-Class is really superb. So meanwhile, I'm not sure if there's a serious reason to step up and go for an S-Class. The E-Class drives better, is so comfortable with the air suspension, it's such a soft ride. Ambient lighting is always a great thing. Of course, you pick ocean blue, which is Thomas blue, and the brightness. What is this? Come on, all the way up again, right? And one of my other totally useless but cool features, here, one of my favorite features, the Burmester sound system with the additional speaker here that goes in and out if you have tuned up the music. Yay! Or if you go for the mute button, goodbye speaker. See you soon. My name is James. Welcome to my sedan. You're my guest for the day. Here it is. The rear compartment. Yeah, I'm still Thomas, by the way, if you have tuned in the very first time to Autogefühl. I hope you didn't. Well, same styling here in the rear. That looks bright here. I mean, the color is cool. And again, you can also get a bright Art Deco. So if you want that style, you can also do it animal free. Panoramic roof here also for the rear. That's also a nice thing. We can also open the front one very soon. Here again with a nice decor element. So many speakers for the Burmester 3D surround system and also soft touch at the rear doors. Finally a car that has that. So what about the rear legroom? Of course this hasn't changed with the facelift. And it's no problem. There we go. The bench is not too long, but it's still comfortable. You know it all from driving a taxi. Yeah, there's this vicious saying, like when I want to drive an E-Class, I drive taxi. It's definitely funny, yes. But of course, it's also, what's also behind it is that it's not that easy to afford an E-Class. And so, of course, it's easier to afford a taxi ride. Then, here the headroom is also okay still for the sedan. If you have the T model, the Estate, then it goes a little bit further, so it's even a little bit easier then. And here, this is also one of the key speakers here for the 3D surround system, here mounted on the top part. And indeed, it sounds a little bit different from sedan to Estate if you really listen carefully. But of course, it will be great in any of these vehicles. Then we have Isofix at the outside seats. Each, there and there. We cannot flip them from here. We have to do that from the trunk to fold them down. Then the middle part, this is a ski edge. We can do that from here. And then there's cup holes right there, adaptive, and some cubby hole. And then in the middle part, there's this tunnel for rigidity, but also then for all-wheel drive versions. Or of course, just the rear-wheel versions, because this car here is rear-wheel driven only. USB-C devices now with the facelift, another 12-volt power supply, and also a rear climate unit. I can't stop hugging this Magno grey matte paint. Good boy, good boy. Well, they also had to redesign the rear boot lip because of the new tail lamps right there. You can see there's then a split between. And so this also looks a little bit sleeker and more elegant right now. So there's the opening below that, somewhat electric opening, typical here for a sedan, more flexibility than with the T model with the Estate. And the normal measures here. Let's begin with width. So width is a meter here and even a little bit more than a meter right there. And the normal length is 1 meters and 15. Below here, by the way, you can have a shopping basket, foldable, very interesting. Let me also give you an example here with the cabin trolley, like this. It also fits here in a vertical way, no problem. And then we can fold the seats here, but we just unleashed them. Isengard unleashed. So, and here, well, in this case, we cannot push it through with our luggage, so we have to go around and then flip it right here. Like this, fold it. One day I'll learn it. So, and then, let's see the length to the seats. You see the step right here, and then this is 2 meters, so that's of course pretty long. And let's compare E300e. This is the plug-in hybrid, petrol plug-in hybrid, and this is just a sample case, but then it also shows us there's this step in the trunk then, and this is of course a massive disadvantage for the plug-in hybrid. So I really like plug-in hybrids, and they can be very useful. Depends on the use case, of course. But here, both, in the C and in the E class, when you go for the plug-in hybrid versions in the trunk, yeah, you do lose significant trunk height. You have to know that. And now, the Estate trunk with the electric tailgate right here. This is, of course, so much more practical than with the sedan. Interesting here that this cover here goes up and down electrically. A very nice solution. This is here a normal combustion engine, so we have a little space underneath. And of course, the access to the trunk is so much better. The length, however, is pretty much the same, 1 meters 15, but the width here is all the way wider. So here almost in this, back area, wider than a meter. So this is where the sedan is a little bit slimmer here and here. And then in this front area, this is also 1 meter and 20, so that's of course way better. And the height here, below the cover, this is not too high. When you are below the cover here, this is here about like between 40 and 50 centimeters. But the crucial thing is, when you are not using the cover, then you have here 75 centimeters available. That's the crucial thing. And of course, even better that we can fold the seats from here with this release function. That's of course pretty cool, and once again it's 2 meters, but this is the big advantage then of the Estate. And the plug-in hybrid version of the Estate, and once again also here in the trunk, this massive step. And once again, I really like electrification, for more sustainability, but this is really a big downside here. So you really have to be okay with this. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the E-Class facelift. Here, augmented reality. You can see in display, that's nothing new with the face. Oh, that's the S-Class camo vehicle with camouflage. All-new S-Class, soon an Autogefühl as well, of course. So augmented reality shows me, did show me with the right arrow in this projected camera image that I should turn right. This is definitely a helpful feature. I can also have the map here in the left instrument cluster, but I have the speed mount in here for you, also with a different gauge style that you can check out the speed. This new petrol engine here with the MHEV system, so I can see this EQ charge, so there's recuperation possible, and when I just lift the throttle, then the recuperation is already active. Here, this is the Daimler headquarters. Famous German word of Konzernzentrale. Yeah, which means headquarters. Yeah, sounds so Germanish, right? So, and at the same time, we also get an EQ boost or power. So when we really push the throttle, the electric, electric savings basically boost us even further. We'll soon also test it. Let's first see what minimum consumption we can score with that. Then we have the air suspension right here. Then once again, augmented reality. This really helps you in tricky situations where you're like, what is the GPS meaning? Is like this or the next one, or was it before? And this makes it definitely a little bit clearer. So cool thing. And in the new S-Class, there will also be like an equal function, but then in the head-up display, where at the moment I rather see only arrows and stuff and not this augmented, reality function. So this car equipped with the air suspension, but I told you earlier, even with a normal suspension, the E-Class ride is very soft and comfortable, even better with the adaptive suspension and the air suspension. Of course, at some point when you need to replace it, the cost will be higher, but it's not that it breaks after 2 years or something. So, but just, when you take it into account and have it for a very, very long time, if it plays a role. However, the air suspension of an E-Class is also something very special because you have such an awesome soft ride. Just when you start riding, and it's not like it shakes out of control, but a very controlled, nice shake you have there. And yeah, I always say it feels like like an air carpet. So here, by the way, the run of road protection is done with brake intervention, and I don't like that here when like this here. See here, I mean the car does it very well, but it's not with steering intervention, but it's with brake intervention, and this can be a little bit surprising at times. However, if you set the cruise control with the assisted driving mode, then you have an active system. You increase the speed also right here now to 100 kilometers an hour, and now actually I'm supposed to keep my hands on the steering wheel, but with the capacitive function now, so I don't need to like, hey, I'm there. It's enough when I have the hands on the steering wheel. And see here, now the lane is actively being kept by steering intervention. That's again the difference. The active lane keeping assist against the run of road protection. So, how the systems work differently. And now it says, touch the steering wheel. And once again, even one hand is enough. You see here, capacitive function, and it's realizing I'm still here. That's really cool. Now here the ambient lighting, and when I put it warmer, then you can see, wow, this red ambient lighting. What an awesome, it's such a simple feature. And here colder again, it's all blue. Such an easy feature, but so cool, and makes such a pleasure experience from that. Really amazing. I have a good view to the head-up display, by the way. Here in a tunnel, the car is again super silent. 100 kilometers, 60 miles in the tunnel, and again a silent experience. If we would close the upper shade from the roof, it would be maybe a little bit more silent even, but this is already a very good result. And the overall driving experience in an E-Class is always very, very calming. This also counts due to design, but then again also with the soft suspension setup. And the Audis, for example, even a base A6 is set on a sportier tone, and the same counts for the BMW 5 Series. So the base Mercedes E-Class is definitely more on a calm luxury side, whereas BMW and Audi more try to master the compromise of sportiness and comfort, and they're all good, no doubt about that. And when you jump then here in an AMG model, then it becomes pretty stiff, almost rough. So with Mercedes, between their non-sport and sport models, there's the widest span, the biggest difference. Whereas the Audi and BMW sport models, this more goes in a transition, than sportier. And here it's like non-sporty, gap, sporty. Yeah, different philosophy and just, matter of preference. Here, once again, this is also what this car is made for. Cruise control, 100 kilometers an hour. Good lane keeping assist, active steering assist in a smooth way, really good. Then the noise insulation, and you can just imagine of rolling here hours and hours and hours, enjoying this awesome sound system, and so on. So what a great experience. What is also a case, by the way, with the Mercedes E-Class is you have always a good view to the front. The hood goes, falls down there. This is a different experience in the BMW 5 Series and the Audi A6, where the front hood looks a little bit more, stronger, so to say. Here, blind spot monitor, red triangle in the side mirror, also one of the very good features. The autonomous emergency braking assistant has been updated as well, now also works with crossing traffic. And I said earlier, the Distronic has been updated, keeps emergency corridors for emergency vehicles into account when you are with just a little bit on the brakes when we see speed cameras. Emergency corridors into account when you are in a traffic jam, for example, and realize if you're on the right or in the left lane. That's definitely very interesting as well. Now when we're rolling downhill here, once again a little bit charging up from this mild hybrid engine, it won't have the same effect as we were driving the plug-in hybrid version, but still it will have somewhat an effect on the fuel economy. This is also one of the most sophisticated mild hybrid systems that Mercedes is offering. This engine starts in Germany actually, and then will be later rolled out to different markets, and not only in the E-Class, at least to markets where you get 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engines for an E-Class. That's not the case in not the case in every market. However, then it might be that, for example, when this one doesn't come in the US to the US in the E-Class, it will come for the C-Class then, because they will use the same engine right here, also for different models. And of course, why not? All manufacturers do that, and it only makes sense. Now we're getting off and heading a little bit out to the countryside to test some driving dynamics, because good thing here with the air suspension is also that it's adaptive and you can pick the different driving modes. The new steering wheel, by the way, yes, the design could be a little bit irritating, definitely. This, ball here in the middle for the airbag and the horn. Yeah, I have to get used to that, but the grip here at the side is actually quite good. The form how you touch the steering wheel, that's quite nice. There's also an AMG steering wheel available, as I told you earlier, which looks a little bit sportier, also has a different form, and that is also should also again be possible to get them with dynamic or microfiber. These capacitive buttons here to use it while driving, it's somewhat okay. I would have imagined it is worse, because the haptical feedback is actually quite good. There's also a nice clicking sound. So for hapticals buttons or capacitive buttons, not haptical buttons, capacitive buttons with a haptical feedback, so that's the way to take it right. It's one of the best I've experienced yet. But I still think that the ones before that had this, metal-like image and touch to it, like metal knurled knob. Yeah, they were just a little bit more natural to use in the overall feeling, I think, at least. But the cruise control is very well to control, to increase the speed and decrease the speed, and also to control the gauges here while driving, for example. Here in normal driving mode, it's not that the car is shaking up because it has this soft suspension, but still it evens out the bumps so well. 18-inch wheels is also a great compromise. You already have a nice look, but not too big. So when you have smaller wheels, you always have a little bit more comfort. So the setup we have here would be one of the most comfortable you can get in E-Class, but overall also any vehicle suspension-wise. So here, not the biggest wheels with an E-Class air suspension, one of the best you can get, actually. So that's really very, very cool. And by the way, so far I've been driving very calmly, and the fuel economy figure is here at about 7.7 liters on 100 kilometers. Also something I would have expected for a car of that size, and the MF system brought the consumption a little bit down, so about 8 liters on 100 kilometers is somewhat realistic. I wouldn't say that this is so much better than with the 3-liter 6-cylinder, because the 3-liter inline 6-cylinders they've been using here is also a very good system. Now also available with the MF system, so the downsizing might not play the biggest effect. But of course the entry price for the 2-liter 4-cylinders is always lower than for the 6-cylinder engines, and also lower weight, of course. You know, have to take that into account. As for the driving modes, by the way, there is individual. You can pick everything yourself. Then Sport, Plus, Sport, Comfort, but also Eco. And in the Eco mode, this sailing or coasting effect is increased. That when you're just rolling, for example, the RPMs drop down, the car is just rolling, and you know, coasting, not using any more fuel, depending on the situation, of course. Then throttle input is being reduced, actually, once again, to favor the fuel economy. And exactly the opposite would then be the sports mode, and we'll use that one when we get out of this, you know, rural town right here. And then in the sports mode, the RPMs will turn up higher, shifting up later. You can always use the shifting pedals, which are also newly designed here, and they have very good grip and, you know, very good haptical feedback. So, what's that? Oh, it's a Kia Stinger. It's an interesting design in this matte grey paint. We also have a Kia Stinger review, by the way. We just had it in the red car. You can check it out as well. But always nice to see, like, you know, some special cars on the road, which are not that, you know, just not that often on the road. Here, when driving, by the way, 50 kilometers an hour, it's almost like you're walking with headphones with noise cancellation. You know, it's so super silent in this vehicle. But they don't use noise cancellation. We had cars that used noise cancellation. It's very silent, but a different feeling, this active noise cancelling. Sometimes you feel a little bit like someone would, you know, like steal the sound next to your ears. And here with a passive noise insulation, it comes more natural, this, you know, this silent experience. Steering wheel here, by the way, see, you have to steer quite a lot with Mercedes. That means it's a little bit more comfortable just when running straight, also with this long wheelbase. Audi and BMW more have a, you know, even stronger Audi, a more progressive approach to the steering. That means you have to steer less. I wouldn't say they're less, like this, less stable on motorway rides running straight or so. But here maybe a little bit more relaxed when running straight, and then you have to steer a little bit more. However, the steering definitely still feels very, very natural. In the head-up display, by the way, I can see the speed, the current speed, and also some GPS info, like basic arrow infos or some intersections approaching when the next intersection, you know, is being marked. Now outside this town, I'll go to the sports mode, and the RPMs are going higher, and we can also show you some acceleration. And here now going 40 kilometers to, let's see how close we get to this car. Here also no more straight road. Let's see about the power. There will be this additional EQ power boost. Let's see. And 80. That was pretty cool. Now here a little bit strong in the corner. Of course, this doesn't feel sporty at all here in the basic E-Class with the air suspension. But there you already saw, even though we have the soft air suspension, it doesn't lean too far into the corner, because here in the sports mode, the air suspension is also stiffer. You see here, you wouldn't guess that it is a soft air suspension. And then we go back to the comfort mode, for example, and it shakes a little bit more and, you know, gives us some softer feedback. But the good thing is you can really finely tune it. But again, difference now, again, the Audi A6 or the BMW 5 Series, as base models, they definitely feel sportier. And meanwhile, I think Audi comes really closer to the BMWs then. As for the sportiness, so sporty already as for the base versions, not uncomfortable at all, but definitely the normal setup here for the E-Class is more like, I don't need to race, I just want to enjoy, I want to relax, don't need to race these guys, I just, you know, enjoy the great sound, for example, on the interior, and go a little bit slower in the corners, and so on and so on. And I think, you know, this market differentiation is just fine, because then once again, it's not good or bad, it's just then a matter of preference. But the engine here, as for the performance, this was also pretty good. And you also saw that this EQ power boost we gave us, and at least you cannot recuperate that much but at least you can do something, and you know that some energy is at least, not completely lost, so to say. So overall, I think quite good impressions from this new engine. I wouldn't expect fuel economy wonders from it. The 3-liter 6-cylinder will still be better to drive, yes. I mean, the 6-cylinder is a great drive. Not necessarily in the agility, because, when 6-cylinders are spinning, so to say, you have more force that is going in the forward direction. And so the less cylinders you have, the more agile the car will be, basically. But the 6-cylinder, when you just accelerate, you have a little bit more sonorous sound, you keep it with lower RPMs, it just feels a little bit more sovereign when driving than with the 4-cylinder. Well, you do have the electric boost right here, but it's nice to have it, but it doesn't change everything, so to say. Here now again would be a typical situation. I go back to the comfort mode to enjoy the soft ride, and I just let the car roll. Or let me go to the eco mode, like this. So here, for example, I felt like, how the car basically decoupled. Now we're just rolling and coasting, and next then here 50 kilometers an hour, charging also here in the EQ. Now on the brakes, charges even more. So I think it's a very interesting system. That was a GLE, what is it? Another speed camera, but we were all good with the speed. So, and I can, look at that. Vintage Mercedes, what's the 230? What a beautiful vehicle, Yeah, I mean, this, it's so cool to drive modern cars because they're so silent, they're so easy to drive. But just design-wise, with these vintage vehicles, they were so much more unique, Don't you think so as well? So I think I would rather go buy them design-wise, not necessarily to drive them, all day and so on. So I think here the E-Class, once again, master of comfort in the segment, not master of sportiness. Then you would go to the AMG model, but I think really, with the AMG models you do lose comfort, so I would rather go for a base E-Class, or then, with one of the soft suspensions, non-AMG, if you really appreciate the comfort. And if you want to combine more sportiness and comfort, then maybe you'll be happy with the Audi and the BMW. And just when you want this, sportiness without comfort, then you're just fine again also with the AMG model with the very stiff suspension setup. Once again, augmented reality here also in the city. That's an interesting piece of art here in this roundabout. Yeah, there's this saying in Germany. We say like, "Ist das Kunst oder kann das weg?" That's like, is that art or is it trash? Like, or can it be like thrown away? Is it art or can it be thrown away? Maybe in there's like a similar saying in your language then. So once again, out of the countryside, accelerating here, using all the EQ power we've been storing before, and one more, a little bit quicker corners. Let's put it to the sports mode. So once again, a little bit more support now from the air suspension, but still in the sport mode, the air suspension evens out this ride very well. So no matter what we have on the ground there's nothing, which is like damage in the roads or something, which would come through my lower back or something. The air suspension really evens that all out. But I told you earlier, also the other suspensions that are available for the E-Class, they're all very, very good. So I'm always a fan of giving you the best price performance of a vehicle. And the E-Class can be so expensive with all the extra equipment we have here. And I think happy car customers also appreciate a good price-performance ratio, and that's usually more like a mid-trim vehicle, so to say. The car manufacturers always equip these vehicles so much to show off everything they got. We always ask for mid-trim vehicles if possible, but most of the time this is actually not possible then. But we show them, of course, always when we can. Once more, last time the augmented reality here was showing us the way. Always good also for roundabout that you really know which exit you take here in this roundabout. By the way, once more here with the slalom alike, normal driving mode, smooth steering,
that was, there was sports mode again. Sports mode here, comfort, then a little bit softer from the steering reaction, but all again, yeah. This vehicle is so evolved over the years. It also comes back to our initial thesis. This car is what the Mercedes brand is all about. And even with that facelift, still is.
And now to our conclusion for today with the new Mercedes E-Class facelift. We've shown you all three new front grille, and no matter which you pick, the Avantgarde, the AMG line or the classic exclusive line, they all look somewhat sportier, so the car looks sleeker than before. Also due to this new rear with the horizontal tail lamps, you can argue it more looks now like a bigger A-Class sedan, so maybe less unique in one way, but it's really a difference when you saw the first pictures and now seeing the car in reality. It really looks sleeker and sportier than before. The interior, still a great, sensual, luxurious interior, and with the new steering wheels, they look quite fancy definitely. The AMG line looks, or in the true AMG models as well, looks a little bit better even with this split horizontal fins in the steering wheel. However, the capacitive buttons, 4 capacitive buttons, they give you good feedback, but still, I found the ones that we had before, the classic ones on the steering wheel, just a little bit better and easier to control, especially while driving. So, when you have some changes in the car, it's not always that everything is better than before. The screens actually make a good impression, 2 different sizes, now all digital analog is gone. And especially important to have the new MBUX system in the E-Class as well, with a better voice input and so on. So this is definitely a step forward. In general, from driving, the Mercedes E-Class, always a very luxurious ride, a very soft ride as well, especially here with the optional air suspension we had today. But even a base suspension will just do fine. And it's one of the most silent cars on the market as for the noise insulation as well. Well, and then about the new mild hybrid petrol engines, they are actually a quite good alternative even to a diesel, I have to say, because of the new particle filters technologies and so on. The diesels seem to have increased the consumption, whereas the petrols went down with the mild hybrid technology. So also for this new MF we tested today, we scored some decent fuel economy. So seems to be that these engines are the ones to go for in the future. Plug-in hybrids, also very interesting, of course, but so far in this E-Class generation, they reduce the trunk space too much, actually. Join us for a tour, exterior-interior, with the BMW 5 Series facelift, here with the M550i, comparing it to the 540i, and we'll also take the 540i, the inline 6-cylinder, out for a spin here today. So a lot of different 5 Series content to come right here. As you know, in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. The BMW 5 Series facelift here comes with a wider front double kidney, and it leads over directly to the headlamps now. They come standard with LED, optional the adaptive LED matrix light. Then they also have this L daytime running light. And optional the BMW laser light here signalized by these blue accentuations, and they work even better here with the black package here for the dark menacing front grille. The 550i has a stronger lower air intake like here, stronger lower bumpers and so on. So already a very sporty look here in the front, especially a great contrast to the white color. The length of 5 Series 4 meters 96, 16'3" or 195 inches. Here with the facelift, just a little bit longer because of stronger overhangs with the new spoilers. And wheels come from 17 to 20 inch. Here the M550i would come standard with 19-inch wheels. Optional then, here the 20-inch wheels, you can see the most massive ones, of course, with a really, really sporty M styling, also with the M badge right there. As for suspension, a normal 5 Series would come with a standard suspension, an optional adaptive suspension, which is one of the best adaptive suspensions out there. Here the M550i, the M Performance Sporty model, comes automatically with the adaptive suspension, but then is put 10 millimeters lower to get a sportier touch, and also the electronic setup of the dampers is then a little bit stiffer overall. New with the facelift is also that you can get the so-called integral active steering, so the rear axle steering for all models except the true M model. But here the M550i would also be available then with the rear axle steering. That gives you more agility, especially at lower speeds, and also reduces the turning circle. And here for this model you can also get the anti-tilt control, so anti-roll control, to keep the car even more upright. Overall, a classic styling here then with the black frames around. So the front grille here is today in black, and here also the frames around. This is this shadow package. The standard here for the M550i would be in this cerium gray color, also for the mirror caps and so on. But you can also vary that for the styling. In general, the 5 Series facelift get these new tail lamps. They are more horizontally drawn and also show this kind of, is it L or C form, something in between. But definitely stresses the width of the vehicle. M550i badge right here, because this M Performance model gets special inside exhaust. The outside here, these trapeze outside stylings of the exhaust tips, it's not fake, it's integrated with the rear exhaust, and this is basically now for all the different models. It's just that the M550i has on the inside then this split here from the exhaust, looks a little bit more massive, of course here for the 8-cylinder engine, and a diffuser style here also for a more prominent sporty look. And maybe you've seen it already here, this additional spoiler lip that also comes exclusively for the M550i. And now as a comparison, the 540i, here being the M Sport model, it doesn't look too different here in the lower area, because the M Sport model essentially has the same design clues with the M550i here, with the same spoiler lip and also the air intake. However, here we have the chrome frame around this new double kidney, and again you can go for a shadow package to have it in the black frame, or then the M Performance model would have it in cerium gray, but so you can really depend on it, just pick it on your liking. The Phytonic blue color, a very interesting one with a lot of light nuances right there. So as it stands here right now, why not? 19-inch wheels on this one, by the way. These would be the standard wheels for the M550i, and here they are optional. And a 3/4 rear perspective here. There's no additional spoiler lip then for this M Sport package, so I think that's also a cleaner design. In the lower part, in the M Sport package, you also have a diffuser. And then you see here the new trapeze style exhaust tips, but they are once again one form or one unit with the real exhaust. I think a very interesting solution design wise and also functionality wise. The engine we have here in the M550i xDrive, so all-wheel drive with rear-wheel bias. Here the 4.4-liter V8, 530 horsepower, limited to the sedan, this M Performance version. And this V8 engine is also in the base used for the true M5, and with more horsepower output. And on the other side, there would of course also be the 3-liter 6-cylinder petrol engines, also driving the 540i today, and the 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engines next to also the 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder diesels, and plug-in hybrid now with the 5 Series. There's the plug-in hybrid for the 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engine and the plug-in hybrid for the 3-liter 6-cylinder petrol engine. And we've driven the 545e. Yeah, it's always a little bit tough with all these names. So the 6-cylinder plug-in hybrid, we've driven that already, and you can also check out that review on our channel. And under the hood here with our driving test vehicle today, we have the 540i. 3-liter 6-cylinder, 333 horsepower and twin power turbos. So, and this is here very classic engine at BMW, all over the place in so many different models. There's also a reason for that, and I'll tell you more about it when we drive this vehicle later. Now to the interior. First of all, door closing sound. Yeah, really solid, sounds nice. Inside materials then, here all soft touch. If you have Sensatec seats, this all will be also Sensatec here. If you have the animal skin seats, it's also animal material on the inside of the doors. Then these are the so-called comfort seats with animal skin surface. However, new with the 5 Series facelift are new highly, high quality Sensatec seats, and they show the same kind of quilting here, just a little bit different styling. And the Sensatec, the new one, we showed you here in the black sport seats, so available for the normal seats and for the sport seats. The sport seats standard for the US, available in black, beige and brown, and they are really cool. They even feel better than these comfort seats we have here. I mean, all the seatings for the 5 Series are basically comfortable. These seats are also comfortable, but I really had like the head-to-head comparison, and the new Sensatec material, which is like really like highest quality grade, even feels better and softer than this, highly costly intensive option. And the Sensatec seats are not too expensive, and it looks like this. For example, in Europe, we get the base seat with fabric and also with the 3-color Sensatecs. Then the sport seat would be standard in US, option in Europe. Would be available with fabric and microfiber mix in Europe, but also in the 3-color Sensatec. And then for the US also the beige, black and brown Sensatec. And they really have this perforation that they're also more breathable. Really cool. The seating position itself, typical for this segment here in the sedan. Again, comfortable steering wheel, electric control right here. And with one with A6 or 6 with 1, still leaves some headroom, although here a little bit limited with the panoramic roof. You can have a little bit more headroom when you leave it out. It's not too big actually, but it's also bringing some light in the interior. And here you can see these BMW wings for this classic design here in the middle part. Really beautiful how this is done. Still one of my favorite design features. Interior overview, new with the 5 Series facelift is more digitalization, infotainment system upgrades. It would still start for a base 5 Series with a 5.1-inch small screen with analog instruments. On the right side, 10.25-inch screen. That is also new as standard now. But here, either optional normal 5 Series or standard for this 550i model, 2 times 12.3-inch left and right. BMW Live Cockpit Professional. However, both the small and the big screen here on the right now come with the OS 7 BMW operating system. So that also then features not only Apple CarPlay but also Android Auto, and both wireless. Zoom more details to the screens. Rest of the interior here with the deco element, different stylings available here in a sporty style for the M550i. Soft touch dashboard is available in Sensatec. Then you have the manual volume knob here still. Cool manual climate unit with the digital screen here. This of course, is quite fancy, but most important that you can control the temperature here still with the manual knob, so it's easy to do that still while driving. And also ionization of the air here comes with the 5 Series. In the lower part here, also again welcome alternative to black piano lacquer, inductive charging pad for your phone, adaptive cup holders, then the typical 8-speed automatic gearbox, converter gearbox of course. And here, as you know, not only via touch this control, but also with the control knob pressing and so writing on it for addresses possible. But you also have the new voice input here. Then the driving modes, adaptive suspension here. Sport mode will be a little stiffer, comfort mode more comfortable, and also So it's one button basically. You have good feedback also acoustically and so on. Then there's this split armrest right here, opens like this, and then there's USB-C charging now with this facelift, whereas USB-A charging would be in the front. Steering wheel, this is here the M version with thicker grip right there, shifting pedals. Right side for the volume and for the voice input if you don't want to say hey BMW but just want to click this button. This can sometimes be more, just quicker. And heated steering wheel, the button is here when you have that option. Left side then for the cruise control. Major assistance systems upgrade also for the 5 Series for better lane keeping assist and so on. And in traffic, and there you change the mode if you just want the normal cruise control or also, really keeping the lane. Instruments, here we have the one of the 540i or Titanic blue car, and then also the rear corresponding color is shown on the interior. We have the instruments of this car here. We drive today because here we can also start the engine, and then we can show you that on the left side you have the speed, and on the right side then you have the power output, and you can even better see that here in the sports gauges where you have the RPMs, and if Michelle revs it up a little bit, yay! Like this, they can also see it right there. And in the middle part, you would also get GPS information if you have a destination set. Yeah, a lot of options still left. For example, the head-up display then, and it's always good to have it all in your line of sight. Infotainment system, if the map here it does flicker a little bit on camera, that's just on camera, not on, for human eye. Really responsive, this map, so they really kept up the hardware. So many times we see manufacturers now evolving more software, but they're not keeping up with the hardware, but here it's really very well done. Easy menu structure as well, so an easier menu structure I think if compared to Mercedes. Here once again nice visualization, ambient lighting in blue below that. You can also activate some sport displays with the G-force meter. The Apple CarPlay integration and with Auto now also available here for the OS7, really all the way all over the screen. Pretty cool. And actually this optional Harman Kardon sound system is doing a phenomenal job. Of course in this segment if you buy the top sound system you do expect it. But this one has a really deep and rich sound. I can just enjoy that all the time. Rear view camera, if the image is flickering a little bit, by the way, just on camera, not in real life. And here you can see the helping lines, and also the camera or the image changes a little bit according to the steering input. And also have the fake drone from above in this highest, most sophisticated trim. You can see here the color of the exterior resembles also from this visualization. So this detail is nicely done. And when I go back, it looks like this. Of course, rear view camera has to be mandatory standard in US models now, but also a more simple rear view camera. And then the sophisticated one with the round view is an option in most markets. Here then also with the front view camera that switches then when we go to the front, we don't hit anything in the front. So a good camera system overall. And also with reversing, parking assistant and so on, automatic parking is all possible meanwhile. Now to the rear seating, and let me show you here, this car is also equipped with the extra of the soft close. Magic. So, and then inside of the door in the rear, also high build quality. BMW really stepped up the game in interior build quality over the past years especially. And you see that in this segment here, it's a long sedan, but you don't have too much space. Of course, enough space for 4 tall adults. The middle tunnel is quite large here for, it's either rear-wheel drive model, of course, or optional all-wheel drive. When you have the 5 Series in general, USB-C charging now 2 times in the rear, and more sophisticated climate unit in general for the rear. So here, legroom-wise, there's still enough room left, but considering the package, the length of the vehicle, that's not ideal, so to speak. Here with the sedan, you also have enough headroom because here it's like lower, but then it raises a little bit to the rear. If you want a little bit more headroom, the Touring, the Estate version, if it's available on your market, then you also have a little bit more headroom. But for tall adults, again, Audi A6 or 6.1, it still does work. This is also a rear seat entertainment. If it's that useful is the other question. The built-in system, if the maps here flicker, by the way, on camera, it's just on camera, not on, for the human eye. This is basically mirroring what's happening in the front, or you can choose the things yourself. But I think meanwhile, everyone just uses your own iPad or smartphone, right? And also for crash safety, I'm not really sure if that's ideal right here. But, you know, reasonable and comfortable seating position here in the rear. As for the middle seat, because of that large middle tunnel, there's CD changer here in the rear, by the way. The middle part is not the most comfortable, and also headroom-wise would come very close. So, yeah, rather recommended here for 4 tall Ls, not for 5. And then you can also use this armrest here. There are adaptive cup holders, somewhat. Another cubby hole right there. Is it? It's not. Strange. Usually you can also open this part here, but obviously not possible here. That's a surprise. But there's a ski hatch like this. An interior sidekick here with our other car, the 540i today, but this is not really connected. I wanted to show the bright styling here with the beige color. This is also the animal skin surface. However, the beige color also available with the new Sensatec seats. And to me, that would be my favorite color combination. Blue on the exterior and the beige on the interior. And again, cooler, that's also possible with the new Sensatec perforation. So I would probably then go for this. As for the trunk, electric hatch here and 530 liters of capacity. I put it in a backpacking side. You can see that very well fits, no problem. If you would have a plug-in hybrid version of the 5 Series, it would be a little bit reduced in the height then, but here you have no problem as for the height. And then you can also fold the seats. You release them in the lower part and then, well, either push it through with your luggage or go to the rear compartment and fold them like this. So, of course, if you want more flexibility here, length is no problem, but more flexibility in the height and the loading in and out, then you could go for the touring if a touring is available in your market. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge, BMW 5 Series facelift 540i. Either available with rear-wheel drive or with all-wheel drive. With the X-Drive, we have the X-Drive here, and I already have the engine warm now, so I can directly start an acceleration. Never do like fast acceleration when the engine is cold, of course, to keep the engine alive long term. And I'm really interested in how is this rear-wheel biased. When I accelerate out, almost from standstill. Yeah, really nice. So even if you have the all-wheel drive, still a strong rear-wheel bias. That's really nice, so you don't lose this, base rear-wheel characteristic. Of course, the pure rear-wheel drive will always be a little bit, sportier in the driving. But then again, the X-Drive has better acceleration figure. So, sports mode. You can also go in the sport traction mode right here. Because then when we accelerate from standstill, it's 5.2 versus 4.9 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour, because the all-wheel drive just has more traction. Plop, that's 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour. That was the launch control. Here, manual shifting mode, putting it to the left side. Sport traction mode, that's also okay when the road is dry here. And really impressive acceleration, and harmonious as well. This is really better and faster with the all-wheel drive. And of course, if you accelerate it out and you have somewhat of a wet road, then it's also safer with the all-wheel drive. The 5 Series in general, with this adaptive suspension, such a superb ride. This adaptive suspension does not let you miss any air suspension. So one of the very rare cars where you say like, what advantage would an air suspension give me? Here you have great comfort and sportiness at the same time. In the normal comfort mode, the car is indeed a little bit more comfortable, and in the sport mode, stiffens up the suspension also a little bit. And we have 19-inch wheels here mounted, and even though with the 19-inch wheels, still a really, really great rolling comfort with this adaptive suspension. And let me put it to the sports mode once again. Throttle input is being increased. Great steering characteristic, also a precise and natural feeling. Here now, getting on the motorway, really good, and the handling is just superb. I mean, it's a big sedan, and it feels just as it would be smaller and more agile. Really awesome. Now on the motorway, wow, the 6-cylinder engine is just awesome. No matter if you drive it rather calmly or if you accelerate it out, it gives you such a sovereign driving feeling here
really amazing. And the rear axle steering, by the way, is a great addition to the BMW 5 Series. If you can afford that option, you should go for that. Reduces turning circle, has more agility than at lower speeds, and gives you more stability at higher speeds. About 3 degrees, the rear axle can turn in the opposite direction than the front wheels at lower speeds, and higher speeds it steers in the parallel direction. And yeah, always adds some more agility to the driving, definitely. Then here it's also a great motorway vehicle, comfort mode. And then we rather roll, distance control or the assisted driving. Assistance systems have been upgraded, and then it's supposed to keep your hands on the steering wheel all the time. This is just demonstration purposes here now, that the lane is being now really very kept in the center. And after a while, when I don't have my hands on the steering wheel, I need to touch it. So that was already enough. So this capacitive sensor here now, really very sensitive. So once again, I can show it to you here now, like this. This is already enough that the car knows Thomas is still here. So cars that do not have this function yet, then you need to have a turning input on the steering wheel. This can be annoying at times and giving you some false positives. So here, just keeping your hands on the steering wheel will be enough, definitely. Now, once again to the sports mode, and this is here, once again, the inline 6-cylinder, 120 kilometers an hour. So about 70 miles an hour. Let's go. $180. Yeah, almost 200 kilometers, almost 125 miles an hour. So already when you are at speed and accelerate further out, it's just amazing. So it doesn't let you miss an 8-cylinder performance-wise. So to me, probably the best engine that BMW is building at this moment. So performance-wise, nice sound, of course, a little bit enhanced here on the interior because it's so well insulated. But also from the exhaust, you have a decent sound from the exterior. And this engine feels so right for this vehicle, exactly like, the right horsepower and displacement figure and so on. The 8-cylinder, in the M550i is really, really strong, and of course has a better sound and so on. But then when you think about, you're not doing the performance runs all the time. So you also think about efficiency, then the 6-cylinder really plays a more major role. And talking about that, we can go to the comfort mode then back right there, and then we can reset the consumption values. Yeah, now it's reset. And when we just put it to cruise control here now, about 120 kilometers an hour, and then we can find out, what's the somewhat minimum consumption. Sometimes it goes a little bit uphill, sometimes a little bit downhill here. And I mean, I've been driving this engine here in a lot of different BMW models. So in the X5, for example, I could quite easily score some 9 liters on 100 kilometers with this engine. So yeah, that's a little bit less than 30 mpg US and a little bit less than 40 mpg UK. But here then with the 5 Series and also with mid-size, 3 Series, 4 Series, you can score some 7 liters on 100 kilometers. And that's 30 plus mpg US and 40 mpg UK. And that's totally reasonable for a car of that size. And this horsepower output, definitely. More efficient would be just the inline 6-cylinder diesel. So that one is also doing a great job fuel economy wise. However, with these new particle technologies and so on, both get of course petrol and diesel engine, especially in Europe. But with enhanced filtering, the diesel advantage has been diminishing bit by bit. That was my experience from all the car tests. The blind spot monitor, and it flashes also when I set the turning indicator. So blind spot monitor really useful because the B pillar is quite thick right here. And once again, you also heard it when I was driving at really high speeds. The noise insulation is superb in this vehicle. Lane change, once again, a lot of fun. Of course, you feel you're moving a lot of weight in comparison to the smaller 4 Series or the 3 Series, the mid-size segment. Here then 5 Series, 6 Series, more towards this full-size segment. You just move more weight. And this on the one hand gives you more calmness and serenity just when driving straight. On the other hand, then a little bit less agility when going left and right and slalom alike. So there's always the question, what do you want and what size do you need, and what about parking spots and so on. Oh, Z4, what is it? Like a 20i, right? Yeah, so the base 4-cylinder also works with the Z4. Sometimes it's better to go for a smaller engine, can be, not always, because you have then less weight on the front axle. And to me, it also feels like here when we compare the 6-cylinder and the 8-cylinder here with the 8-cylinder you also have more weight on the front axle, and just for like going left and right, it can be better than to have the smaller engine. And the same also counts for the Z4. The Z4 feels more balanced with the 4-cylinder than with the 6-cylinder. And of course, the 6-cylinder is really cool, And to me, the thing is really, once again, 7 liters or 100 kilometers. This 6-cylinder to me is really a perfect mix. Same goes also for the suspension, So suspension and the engine here is to me the perfect mix of sportiness and comfort. And in this case also not necessarily less efficient than the 4-cylinder engine, The fuel economy figures, if you drive it like calmly, will not be that different with a 3 Series 2-liter 4-cylinder or so. Maybe a little bit less. You can do like something 6 to 7 liters, but not a major difference, so to speak. Once again, a lot of fun with the lane changing here. And this is the thing. This is not. It's an M Sport model, but it doesn't have like a special adaptive suspension sport setup. It's just normal adaptive suspension, and this car is just a joy to ride. And no matter if you have the all-wheel drive or the rear-wheel drive, here it doesn't make a big difference when being on the motorway. It's more like when you accelerate out of the corners, the rear-wheel drive will be even more rear-wheel biased. But again, since they kept this rear-wheel biased setup in the all-wheel drive version, if you feel safer when having the all-wheel drive, if you want more performance, actually better acceleration, or if you think about winter conditions, or you live in a US state or in a country in Europe where you have a lot of like snow action and so on, then the all-wheel drive of course makes sense. Other than that, you'll also be just fine with a 540i rear-wheel drive, and maybe also save some money or so. A lot of extras here, of course, also in this vehicle, so you always have to think about what's really worth it. But the facelift changes here with bigger infotainment, it's good to see while driving. Assistance systems upgrade, they are really flawless. So BMW at the moment also offering one of the best and most flawless assistance systems. Also the semi-autonomous functions are, I would say at the moment, probably the best with BMW indeed overall from the whole automotive industry. Why? Because I feel they have it, there are hardly any, mistakes like these false positives that they say like, wait a minute, that wasn't right now. So I almost never experienced that with the BMW. And at the same time, they're not that, annoying and intrusive. So most of the time, you can drive this car in a sporty way, no problem, even though you have everything activated. For example, recent Volkswagen vehicles, also like the worst example is the Touareg, where you have it that you either drive with the lane keeping assist on and let the car lead you, or when you want to drive yourself, you have to deactivate it, otherwise you're getting nuts. So, but here, it's actually totally fine. You can leave all the assistance systems activated and you're still fine with driving or steering the car yourself if you actually want that. Oh, there's another BMW in front of us also, already with the trapeze style tips in the rear. Not that clean though, as our Phytonic blue car right here. Also nice with the blue ambient lighting right here. And once again, coming to a standstill, and the car is really all the way silent. Looking at the good efficiency factor. When I want to change the temperature here, it's easily done also while driving, for example. And of course, you can use more of this voice activation system. So what we, for example, did is when we have these press vehicles in Germany, usually the infotainment system is set to German. And then we want to internationalize it and show you also like English language in the infotainment. And we just say like, hey BMW, set language to English. And that's it. And we did like a hard test. So We did that actually while connecting the smartphone wireless to Apple CarPlay, basically interrupting the system, giving the voice input and telling that to change the language. And it still worked flawlessly. That was really nicely done. Thanks for that idea, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much. So, and by the way, like changing the system language. So last time I tried it with the MBUX at Mercedes, this didn't work. However, the MBUX at Mercedes can do some other stuff than here, what this one here cannot do. So they are both at the moment from the classic manufacturers among the best. But then we meanwhile know, seeing the Polestar 2 with the native Google integration, this beats everything then. And then like the billions and billions of dollars and euros the classic manufacturers invested are like, what for, you know? That's the tough thing to swallow. However, we have a very good infotainment system here, even though the Polestar 2 has a better one now. So you get along with it very well. The voice input is good. And for example, I'm not sure if the activation word is set at the moment. Let's see. Hey BMW. Hello BMW. Maybe not. Hello BMW. So sometimes they haven't activated the like the activation word, and you can also individualize it. You can select, hey Sarah, if you want to call the car Sarah. That would also work. What always works is when you press the the button at the steering wheel. Drive me to BMW Garching. Not sure if they like my German.
All right. Our next destination is AHG Attendant MDL there AHG.
Okay, that didn't work so well. Yeah. So you see, it doesn't always work what you want to do, but most of the time the voice input, especially for the GPS, works. But the good thing is, we don't edit like stuff like this out. We're all authentic here for you. That's why we also leave it in. So not always correct the GPS input than with the voice input, but you know, it's getting better and better, and it's definitely a helpful solution that can, you know, reduce some stress while driving. Definitely. Put on these sport displays here for you. Why not? And now countryside driving, really relaxed. Again, this adaptive suspension, to me, one of the best suspensions there is on the market at all. Taking all air suspension and so on. I mean, it is somehow floating and soft at the same time. You have a sporty feedback. I would just leave the car in the comfort mode all the time, no problem. Here, by the way, here in the comfort mode, when you do some slalom, thank you so much, speed limit change, yes. You see the car does tilt a little bit. You can also get the anti-tilt control, which is not in this vehicle here. You can get it for the M550i, for example. It's not really necessary, but it's a cool sporty thing to have. However, if you're here in the sports mode, again, gears are turned up higher, gauges change, and went up to 80 kilometers now once again. And when you then go right and left, you have a little bit more feedback, and then actually the car doesn't shake up that much. However, still in a very comfortable note. If you want it stiffer, M550i has the M setup then for the adaptive suspension. It's so silent, 100 kilometers or at 60 miles an hour, you hardly realize that at all because it's so silent. And again, to me, the 5 Series, if you want a comfortable ride, one of the best cars there's on the market. Indeed, internal competition also from the BMW X5 if you want a more upright seating position. And of course, in Mercedes E-Class is also an awesome ride, and Audi A6 as well. So yeah, there's also this strong internal German competition, no doubt. But here with the facelift, good changes infotainment-wise. The new Sensatec seats are even more comfortable than the seats we are on here. Tested that one as well. So this is also pretty cool. You know, when it's getting a little bit narrow, you see here the steering wheel doesn't have to be turned that much. Quite progressive input. And again, they kept a very natural driving feeling with this steering here. So that's also one of the cool things. So, but we have to also admit, with the facelift here of the 5 Series, yeah, exterior tweaks, most in the interior with the Sensatec seats and the new infotainment upgrade. The driving has not been changed that much with the facelift. Some tweaks here and there, but it has been good before, of course. And the engines here, we know when with new eco technologies, particle filters and so on, you're not missing any performance.
And now to our conclusion for today with the BMW 5 Series facelift. Here today with the sedan special and looking at the 550i versus the 540i. The M Performance model, of course, even sportier in design, and basic difference is 8-cylinder versus either 6-cylinder or then also 4-cylinder for a base 5 Series. However, in the styling here, since we have the M Sport package today for the 540i, you can make this one already really sporty looking. And then the question is, do you want the chrome frame around the double kidney? Are you on the M Performance model with the cerium grey, or do you pick the shadow lining with the black frame around? That really depends then on your liking. But definitely a sportier styling for the 5 Series. Not too drastic changes, more with the horizontal lamps in the front and the horizontal tail lamps. This is the main exterior difference. Interior, more digitalization. Good that you have the newest operating system by BMW, even as standard, and then optional this 2x 12.3 inch setup. That's, biggest digital change. And of course the new Sensatec seats, which we did not have today, but we have shown that to you already in another episode. We also did the overlay pictures and so on. So the new Sensatec seats, they are really striking, more sustainability and more animal friendly, of course, and even a gain for the customer, because at a very decent price, or even standard in the US, you can get a high luxury seat, soft and also breathable due to this perforation. So overall, I think really useful changes here with the BMW 5 Series facelift. And driving here today, the inline 6-cylinder, really cool, one of my favorite engines, not only from BMW, but overall on the market. If you think about the classic ICEs, this one here with a good fuel economy, if you like, but still at the same time at a good performance ratio as well. This is a driving review of the Lexus ES. What role does it play in comparison to the Lexus GS, even the Toyota Camry, and the German competitors Audi A6, Mercedes E-Class and BMW 5 Series? Let's find out more. Thomas and Autogefühl, let's go. Recent Lexus styling has been defined by this very aggressive design, like someone took a samurai sword and then curved in the lines right here. So really aggressive styling in the front. Even more so in this F Sport trim, which has this darker front grille. It's a little bit brighter and more elegant in the non-F Sport trim. Here also with the headlamps, interesting daytime running light, and you can also optional get an LED matrix. The length here at 4.96 meters or 195 inches, and hey, the white color fits the vehicle very well, doesn't it? Here in the F Sport trim, a special badge, contrasting mirror caps right there, and also black wheels. They come from 17 to 19 inch, and here in the F Sport we directly have the big 19-inch wheels, so a very cool styling here also for the side profile, typical sedan shape and strong shoulder or hip area. Then what's also interesting, the Lexus GS has kind of the similar length. It's a little bit older model, but it's rear wheel based from the platform. This one here shares the same platform with the Toyota Camry and is front wheel based. And also offers this new, or this most current hybrid drivetrain. So the main difference, GS more the sporty rear wheel driven style, but it's actually being discontinued. And here the ES, more modern vehicle, front wheel driven, more economical. These are the main technological differences. And later on in the driving part, also talking more about also in the interior difference. Is it worth the upgrade here for the ES if you compare it to the more price performance oriented Toyota Camry? Wow, also sporty styling in the rear, horizontally drawn tail lamps, nice design here, and no fake exhaust at all, so no job for the Autogefühl fake exhaust police for today. By the way, the F Sport trim comes also with an adaptive suspension. Depending on the market, you have to pick that one then in the F Sport trim, or it comes automatically. And the 300H, the hybrid drivetrain, drives electrically up to 50 kilometers an hour or 30 miles an hour. But it's more the buffer battery, so for electric moments. It's economic, yes, soon more in the driving part. Car key looks like this, slim and light, why not? And the door closing sound, it's very solid, like that. Inside of the doors here, nice build quality, everything soft touch, really soft here, and especially here for the elbow area, great build quality. Here this entry area, by the way, it does not stay clean as it is here. I have cleaned it, but after the rain this was all dirty here, the inside of the doors in the white area. Then here the interior, F Sport with that special steering wheel, has a compact size, really cool, and what's really likable, here still hard buttons at the steering wheel, left side for example to control the instruments, and on the right side for the cruise control. Way better than the recent capacitive BS we have seen. Seats are super cool, both the base seats and also here the F Sport sport seats. They both come with a very sophisticated leatherette, so it's animal free. In the US they call it NuLuxe. In European Union, for example, they call it Ecolux or Tahara. We've also seen that brand name in Germany and the UK, and it's super soft. It's perforated as well, and it just feels so sophisticated. Great job. You also have different colors available, both for the base seats and also for the sport seat. Showing you some colors here from the configurator, from the base seat. And also here for the sport seat, you can, for example, get a color mix between white and black, a red even, or just as it is here in plain black, where it's really awesome. Only if you go for the so-called luxury trim levels, you still get animal skin. As well as here on the steering wheel, no alternative there yet. Can be moved up and down really nicely, electric function. And you also have this comfort entry, so when I turn off the ignition, steering wheel goes up, seat goes back, easy entry. And yeah, you know it from Toyota and Lexus there, and also Hyundai and Kia, it's something is always beeping somewhere. That's really annoying at times. And yeah, now I turn on the ignition again, and well, the seating position is really sporty, especially with these sport seats. Good shoulder support. Headroom, some left with 1 A6 or 6+1. There's also this small glass roof with a manual shade, but why not? You can also open that one. Good seating position here, but considering the length of the vehicle, it's not like most spacious in the segment in the front. But for me, it's totally fine. Interior overview. Soft touch here, soft touch there. Again, great build quality. Driving mode selectors here. Not that practical while driving, actually. Big shifting lever, like that. Good haptic feedback. And still manual control here, for example, for the volume. And also manual climate unit. Hey, nice to have it. 12.3-inch touchscreen, meanwhile. Zoom more details to that. And in the lower part, you have here, for example, some charging devices. Then this touchpad, but most of the time now you directly use the touch screen itself. And here a very large cup holder, and you can also change the height. And here this changes both ways. Quite interesting, with a lot of space underneath, and inductive charging pad. And also here for heated steering wheel and the heated seats, still manual buttons. Really is a relief to see that. And yeah, might be interesting for some. Look at that. This is a CD player. For the cable connection, by the way, you have to use the front USB supply. It looks kind of a little bit messy then. The instruments are not that fancy, actually. The only strange function there is, look at that. Really? When I want to check, you know, like the function on the left side, this is a mechanical function that really literally moves that to the side. Totally unnecessary. I mean, why did they do that? Yeah, it just looks funny, doesn't it? And tough to see because it's bright outside. Here, the head-up display, you can also activate that. It's a nice feature, definitely. Here, that infotainment system is a little bit outdated still from the software. Here also the GPS. Not sure you're going to use it that way. It works, but not that well. And also when you take a look at the climate menu, for example, yeah, rather you want to keep it with the manual dials and then really use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto right here. This is a very good integration, very clear. And let's listen to that one here. So yeah, the sound system also makes a good impression, also is quite sophisticated, and I really enjoy that I can turn up and down the volume here with the manual way. This one here, by the way, the one with the classic mirrors, yeah, they're quite dirty at the moment, sorry about that. But there's also one with digital mirrors available. Rear doors and top part is not that soft actually, but still quite okay. And here also soften again for your elbow, and that's an astonishing result. A lot of rear legroom here, that's maybe even better than with the German competition. Headroom comes close, but still works. I can put a hand over my head. But here, cozy also in the rear. You also have the perforated leatherette here in the rear. And once again, really soft and nice quality. Isofix at the outside seats. And here the middle part. The middle tunnel is not that huge. You can sit there as a tall adult. It's possible of course, the outer seats are more comfortable. Each in the middle part, you can also fold down this one. It's a very sophisticated one here with cup holders and more storage space. Trunk button here, hard to find a little bit, but then rather shallow area right here. Cabin trolley, however, also fits in a vertical way. That's actually quite good. Length about 1.40 meters, and the width here also about 1.40 meters. Just here in the very front, this is actually like very wide. This one goes here in that small area, 1 meters, a little bit more than 1.60 meters. So, wow, more than 60 inches, impressive. As for engines, there is this unique inbuilt hybrid system, 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder, around 220 horsepower is the system output, front wheel driven. In the US, there's also a version with all-wheel drive, then with the 2.5 liter engine without the hybrid drivetrain. And there's also in some markets available a smaller 2 liter engine. And as well, once again in the US, a 3.5 liter V6 if you want it a little bit more powerful. Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge with the Lexus ES, facing the most Germanish test there is. We have it here in Germany, this Japanese premium or luxury vehicle, luxury or premium sedan. We put it here to normal mode, sport plus mode, and then we're getting into the German Autobahn here and accelerate it from 40 kilometers an hour to, let's see, 100. 150. And that's 185. Let's see how fast we can go. 189 kilometers an hour is the top speed here. And it gets quite noisy in here. It's not laid out for these top speeds. I get off the throttle because the car is a little bit slower. And here in the Sport Plus mode, yeah, when it's fast, steering wheel is not that direct here when it's really fast. And yeah, the wind noise are quite notable. So here in this case, the German premium manufacturers are better. Audi, BMW, Mercedes, they are just more silent at higher speeds. They're also mainly built for that. The Lexus are mainly not used at these high speeds. And you've seen also with about 9 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour, not the most performant vehicle, especially here in the 2.5 liter hybrid. It's not the main feature of this vehicle. The main features are to come up bit by bit, telling you about that. But of course, always interesting to test that. Here, by the way, when we're at a little bit lower speeds, the steering feels better, definitely. Also, even here in the normal mode, it's a little bit softer. In the sports mode, it gives you a little bit more feedback. But there, it actually does not have a dead zone area and is quite, offers a quite good feeling. And also the size, it's very compact, sporty here in this F Sport line. So I really like the steering feel and the steering itself. Just here at these very high speeds, it was not ideal. Ambient lighting, there's not much happening here at all actually. So that's something that is missing, definitely. Here, let's pull back to the normal mode once again. The main differences here in the driving modes is more, how much RPM this car gives you. There are no real gears here. You can fake the gears here. Here with, changes kind of the RPM, and then you can also shift up, but that's not real gear shifts with the transmission we have here with this so-called eCVT. So that's also a thing, you heard it, sound was like, that doesn't sound and doesn't feel sporty at all. Guess you'll have to live with that. Yeah. Will probably feel sporty with a 3.5 liter V6. This one here is more about the fuel economy, this hybrid drivetrain. It's also a unique feature. Soon more to the fuel economy figures here also for the hybrid drivetrain for the day, both motorway and also off the motorway and so on. Well, it doesn't give you the most agile feeling. As for the acceleration, that's not the emphasis. So that's definitely where it's behind the German competitors. The general cozy feeling, how comfortable it is, however, that is really good. So it gives you a nice, sophisticated, comfortable feeling in here. Lane changes also. It is still a lot of fun to drive this vehicle, no doubt. When you're a tall person,
it's a long vehicle. It definitely fits my size very well. However, it doesn't feel the biggest as for the interior space. Already told you that in the interior part. But what about when we really drive in a more agile way? So Sportman once again, also a little bit bumpy is this road here. Here the F Sport comes with an adaptive suspension, also a little bit stiffer now, but you know, the difference is not that huge between the driving modes. But the suspension overall is actually quite decent, quite nice. 19-inch wheels, of course you have more comfort when you have smaller wheels. Here, steering feels quite nice. You have to steer quite low, but not too much actually. And good feeling for the vehicle. Accelerating out of the corners with the front wheel drive only, of course, not that much fun. Also not the best traction. You can also get an all-wheel drive version in the US, by the way. Not for the hybrid though. But here definitely a difference. Lexus ES versus the GS. The GS, you remember, made the older vehicle. Both similar length, similar segment they are in. They are dropping the GS. It's the older vehicle. But the difference is the GS was the more sporty rear-wheel drive based ones, and this one here on the Toyota Camry platform, front-wheel drive. So yes, the GS feels sportier. Definitely, that's the biggest difference between ES and the GS. This one, however, than the more modern car and also the more economical car. Soon more to that in our last driving part. Then, yeah, these are the main differences there. Then Camry and ES. Yeah, this one feels a little more, let's say, settled on the road. But definitely you also realize that the Camry is a very, very good vehicle as for the price performance. And yes, you do notice that they are sharing the same platform, because the whole driving feeling when you close your eyes is also not the greatest between these ones. But definitely here, as for the agile feeling, I still like the steering feeling, definitely. But yeah, especially BMW 5 Series and Audi A6 just feel more agile in the corners, are more fun to drive. The E-Class, of course, more has this comfort focus, is therefore the softest in the suspension. Seating-wise, really like the 5 Series and the A6, and this one here also. So they're also very comfortable seating. I think the Mercedes has the worst seats. I think not for the seat materials. Mercedes is also quite good there, but as for the seat ergonomics, they are definitely also very interesting aspects. And yeah, but also once again, as I said earlier, this segment here of the vehicles is just so cool because yeah, they are sophisticated, but they are not over the top. Yeah, I mean, it sounds a little bit profound maybe, but yeah, these are really gentlemen's vehicles or gentlewomen's vehicles. So yeah, as I said earlier, it shows that you've grown up. So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about some of the other grown-up features of this vehicle. Now to more advantages of owning a Lexus here, and also with this hybrid drivetrain. So motorway fuel economy, when you drive quite fast on the motorway and cannot use the full potential of the hybrid drive system. Here with this 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder, around 7 liters on 1 kilometer, so 35 mpg US, 40 something mpg UK. You can score better figures if you use more of the hybrid drivetrain, like for example here now, driving downhill, then you can gain back some energy, or you're in this EV mode, driving EV only. This happens quite frequently. The car does it automatically depending on the parameters and so on. You cannot really accelerate hard in the all EV mode. Now it's on, for example, but when you're just rolling or slightly accelerating, then you stay in this EV mode. And as soon as you go a little bit harsher on the throttle, then you're off. Still EV mode, EV mode. Now we're going uphill, and now, for example, it has been turned off. It does save you some fuel already on the motorway. For example, when you have also on the motorway sometimes when you brake or so, but of course more effective in city traffic. So the motorway difference in fuel economy between this one here and the competitors is not that big, but the city traffic consumption will be having a bigger difference here between this one and the competitors without the hybrid drivetrain. Or of course also when you decide to go, for example, for the 3.5 liter V6 engine. But overall, this is of course still one of the unique things about this vehicle, that you can have one with that hybrid drivetrain here. Here at a lower speed on the motorway, we can test, for example, the assistance systems. Whoa, that, whoa, blinded by the light. The thing is here, the cruise control, it works very well, has an adaptive feature as well. Here we go, yeah. And these, we can still set it here on the steering wheel with hard buttons, and not like, especially new Mercedes models with all the capacitive BS. However, here the lane keeping assist, it stays deactivated, by the way. Must be some Japanese thing, because usually with the German cars always has to be activated. The active lane keeping assist here, for example, is doing a good job. Also very smoothly holds me in the lane. Sometimes I found a little bit too annoying, and then I deactivate it. Here at the moment it's working very well, although we are in this construction lane. But the good thing is here, once again, when you are at some point annoyed by anything like, it's maybe not the type of road I want to use it, just one click here with the thumb and it's deactivated. So easy, and I don't have to search for years in that menu to have it deactivated. That's of course a very good advantage. Also here, changing the volume and so on. Now me with touchscreen while driving. This is one good thing, having touchscreen, because that touch field area in the lower part, that wasn't so easy to control. So the user interface in this vehicle here while driving, still somewhat classic, but I think they have found a very good mix. And to me, classic user interface is the better one, because the newer user faces are not known for being the better ones, but rather the worst ones indeed. Well, and then to the last and maybe most significant advantage here of being the Lexus, well, the difference in driving to the Toyota Camry is maybe not the largest. So you feel it, yes, and this one feels way more sophisticated, yes. However, considering the price difference, if you ask me, is it worth the price? I mean, that's a matter of philosophy, definitely. Of course, you have more fancy interior and you feel more sophisticated by driving. You have a different styling as well. But looking at the price, of course, it makes more sense to go for the Toyota Camry, especially because they share the same technology. It's good that they share the same technology, because both Toyota Camry and the Lexus ES are among the most reliable vehicles on the market there is. And yeah, this is kind of the absolute advantage. Yes, it is not that sporty in driving if you compare it to the German competitors. The suspension might be better with the Germans. This one does not feel that agile. The engine performance is better with the Germans and so on. But the reliability, that one definitely speaks for Lexus. So if you intend to buy and own one and hold one for 10 years, that might be a very crucial factor indeed. A full review on the all-new generation of the Audi A6 here today on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. Today with Thomas. Exterior, special also with the interior. So much to talk about with this vehicle, and the driving experience with a focus today on the German motorway, the famous Autobahn, because that's also one of the special disciplines of the Audi A6. Sedan, Bose and Avant or Estate are available. Today the sedan here is available first. And we'll also take comparisons to the Mercedes E-Class and the BMW 5 Series, especially in the driving part here today. Starting, by the way, about 60,000 euros or dollars. I want you to guess the price of this very test vehicle, and I will also tell you later on in the review. And now let's start with everything in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! In the front you always get LED headlamps. Optionally you can pick those matrix LED headlamps. They then also come with this cascading turning indicator light, and you can see also this light show there. You can even see it at daytime. pretty impressive. It's in the front and in the back. I'll soon show you it in the back as well. And we also had a nighttime driving episode. Today we'll have a tunnel as well. But as we finish this motorway episode here, you can check out our initial review again if you haven't done so far, where we have a nighttime driving special also featuring, you know, how it behaves with the high beam, for example, where single LEDs are being activated and deactivated. Pretty interesting. I will link that video also below. Then there are optional 38 assistance systems available, and the sensors, for example, are hidden right there. And I think it's great because then it's possible to keep this 3D Audi logo with a huge single frame grille here. And overall it's an evolution of the car for sure, but it has gone, you know, a little bit stronger, a little bit more dynamic. This one, by the way, also the stronger bumper here with the S line of the vehicle. 4,93 meters or 16'2" is the total length of the Audi A6, so the dimensions haven't changed that much. You can see here with the keyless entry, also the mirrors flip in and out, S-line badge. Rims are available from 17 to 21 inch. This one here is the 20-inch rim. And Typhoon Grey is the color, by the way, exterior color. Here the tire lip is protecting those rims a little bit. Of course, they are already prone to scratches. Then the main design line is here at the height of the door handles, dividing in light and shadow, pretty interesting, but all a very conservative classic design here. Then yes, there's another design line shaping out there, so Audi still uses a rather angular design. And by the way, the materials, a mix of steel and aluminum. For example, the hood and also doors are from aluminum to bring the weight down a little bit more. Then there will also be the Estate or Avant, which will then be going on like this for more room on the inside. This, of course, the more business class style, typical building form. The rear of the new A6 is more like this, so pretty upright. In the A8 it would be more like this, so the lower part is longer, and in the A7 would be more like this to stress the sportier style. So that's how they differentiate their rear parts at Audi. Here again with the cascading turning indicator light also at the rear. Then this chrome strip all around, so also an elegant design. Yeah, you know, we could live without fake exhaust tips. The manufacturers do that they can design the rear always in the same way. If the exhaust just put underneath, they can do here whatever they want. Also, it's better for crashes, for example. Then you also have to pay less for replacing the exhaust when just, you know, a fake exhaust blend has to be replaced. So there are different reasons pro it, but in general we get the feeling that the community does not appreciate. Then you can maybe just leave that out overall from design element. By the way, it says 50 TDI. I don't like those new numbers because they tell you nothing. I recently now had the experience that some of my relatives say, wait, I mean, does it have 5 liters of displacement or what? And I have to go, no, sorry, this number means nothing. It is somehow now step in a stairs scheme that 50 has more horsepower than 45. Yes, that it's the meaning, but there's no direct translation of the numbers. And what about this Quattro? There are different Quattro systems. Let's talk about that. Because with the 3-liter TFSI, the turbo petrol engine, 340 horsepower, you get an S-tronic dual clutch transmission and the Quattro Ultra front-wheel drive plus rear on demand with a Haldex clutch, so no real all-wheel drive. And this one here has a permanent one. This is the 3-liter TDI with 286 horsepower, 40% front, 60% rear distribution, permanent all-wheel drive and converter automatic gearbox. There's also the 3-liter TDI V6 with 231 horsepower and also smaller diesel 2-liter TDI with 204 horsepower, then again with the S-tronic. And all of those new engines here now have the mild hybrid system, a 48 volt board net. That means, you know, have higher voltage in the overall board net for all the assistance systems, extensive electronics and so on. And also bigger car batteries, so you can have this somewhat recuperation, not like an electric vehicle, but the mild hybrid system helps you to save fuel because it can then better use the sailing or coasting function where the engine is really basically shut off. The car is just rolling, and also some recuperation for the car battery than for the electronic consumers. We'll see out how that one plays out, you know, with the consumption. With the petrol engine, it didn't do too much. Will it change with the diesel? We'll check it out in the driving part. And suspension-wise, you get a base suspension, a normal 20 millimeters lower sport suspension, then an adaptive suspension, and the fourth and highest grade is the air suspension we are testing here today. But there's more interesting things to discover, because this car is also equipped with the optional rear axle steering, and I've mounted a camera just at the very top there above the wheel arch, and then you can see that when I'm going at slow speed, it can maximum turn across 5 degrees, in a 5-degree angle across, and when you steer parallel later at higher speeds, you will then experience that it will go 2 degrees in the same direction as the front wheels. This gives you more stability, and here at lower speeds it gives you more agility, better handling, and also 1.1 meters reduction of the turning circle. Then the interior, which is really interesting, Alcantara inside of the doors, then all those galvanized buttons, also with clicking sounds, great quality. Then a matte wood surface here in a dark scale, but I would pick it maybe in the bright scale to have a little bit more nicer in the interior. You don't have really much room for bigger bottles. That's, I think, a drawback. There you can also open the trunk. Then this one here is also the S-Line package, as we can see it at entry batch. Then there's a new steering wheel. It has an interesting grab structure here at the lower part. You can see it's a little bit bigger right there. It's very good to handle. Single frame Audi grille. There's a logo on the steering wheel. Then digital cockpit. I will soon tell you more about that. Everything again with the most superb build quality, you can really say that. Then there are different seats. There's a base seat. You can, at least in Germany, in some of the European markets, also get a fabric base seats. That's good. Then there's a sport seat with a little bit more accentuation at the shoulders. Then there's a Sport Plus seat, which is holding you even tighter, but maybe a little bit less comfort. The sport seats should also be available with Alcantara inlets on the inside. This one here is the so-called multi-contour seat, the top trim seat basically. The comfort is superb, and the seat form. Sadly, in the higher trims, Audi does not offer any alternative to animal skin. That's really a drawback. They have to learn that. At least they've been learning that now in the lower segments, but not in the higher segments. Electric support here, and in the front part, this button you can then press for the seat massage, which is also doing a great job. And again, all costly extras. I will soon also show you a list of each price of all extras. Then let's get inside. And well, I mean, it's a basic low-sitting sedan, so you feel somewhat sporty here. The A pillar is also not too thick. I really like that. The B pillar is sometimes really blocking the view. That's a pity. The steering wheel here, manual setup, and I'm not sure. I haven't seen electric steering wheel setup. I mean, in the base trim and also for a lower price, that's perfectly fine. But I think if you have such an expensive vehicle with so many options, probably you should have that one included, or maybe, I mean, for this vehicle segment, should probably be standard. But then again, most of the other manufacturers do it in the same way, that they have almost everything optional. The seating position itself, from the seating form, is really superbly comfortable. They have done a good job. It's, you know, a collaboration between the supplier where they have did some research on ergonomics, and that really played out well. So also as a tall person, you can find a great seating position here. I'm 1.86 m or 6'1", still got plenty of headroom. This is, by the way, different to the A7, which has a flatter design. There you have less headroom. You also have less headroom when you put a panoramic roof, which is not equipped right here. Today with a nice bright fabric ceiling that also brings somewhat light in the interior. Interior overview, the most interesting part design-wise is this deco element here, which is, basically as a table here. Here in matte wood, there are different decor trims available, of course. Here, very drawn tightly, very strict design, horizontally drawn. I think overall pretty cool from design. This one I just have wiped that clean with a microfiber tissue because that collects dust and fingerprints the whole way. Nice illumination at night between two. You can see that in our night driving episode. Then you can see again the steering wheel, which is quite large overall. Then 12.3-inch digital instruments. And on the right side, it gets a little bit more complicated with those two split screen setup. The lower part will always be like this, 8.6-inch. The upper part, 8-inch as a base, like this. Or then optional, the bigger one, 10.1-inch. Then you have all the functionality as well. We'll soon get more details on that. There will also be the camera button, always be available right there. With the fake drone view from above, normal review camera, and this very cool 3D view like this. This is of course very fancy, amazing, wow, cool piece of technology. They can also then protect the rims a little bit better, as you can see that here also with the automatic functions. So yeah, very nice to see that one definitely. And in the lower part you also have still one knob to control the volume, start stop, and this Tiptronic converter gearbox lever. And in the lower part, and again, nice matte wood surface to open, for example, here for those adaptive cup holders. This virtual cockpit digital instrument is always pretty fancy. You can change the view, have a bigger GPS screen, or then more gauges, and of course put in other infos like the driving assistance here in the middle part. So a lot of possibilities. It is really, at the moment, I think the best digital cockpit there is. However, I would also be just fine with analog ones. And to the head-up display, you can see it very clearly. It's a very cool system. You have the speed directly in your view, also the allowed speed or the assistance system info here, for example, distance of the ACC. And on the left side you see off-road at the moment. And this will be the display then of the GPS. When you have set a route, then you will also see, for example, the next intersection there. Then those screens up in details, the map, navigation, look how fast it is and how great it looks. Wow, best CPU unit in the automotive industry at the moment. If you want to enter an address, there are also different possibilities. I'll show you that very soon. Just the rest here, telephone, either Bluetooth connection or then the Apple CarPlay. That's also possible. Interesting thing is here, when I'm in the Apple CarPlay, I don't have this haptic feedback. I just press the button and there it is, and it goes fast. That's how I'm used to. But in those main Audi menus, you have this haptical feedback. You have to really press it, and you hear the clicking sound. So, and I don't like it, Some maybe prefer that one, but to me, I like the normal clicking better, because like this here, when you click, nothing is happening. Also here, in the lower temperature unit, nothing happens. You always have to click, click, click. Yes, having haptical and acoustic feedback is something fancy, but I think from the overall functioning mechanism, it is a big drawback in technology. Heated and heated seats on the left, by the way, and ventilated seats right there. But again, to press it, I think it's really annoying to me. But what do you think? The drive select is also in the lower part. Rather hard to do it while driving, I think. So the question is, it is too distracting. But then you can also use the voice control, for example. I'll use it in German now. Temperatur 20 Grad.
Ich senke die Temperatur auf 20 Grad.
And then you have 20 degrees. Of course, it works also in English when you have set the language to English, no problem. Pretty cool, fancy. Or you can just say I'm cold or I'm hot, and then it is also changing. And also the address entry is also working pretty well when you say like navigate to Berlin, unter den Linden. Then it also gives you directly the GPS input. So voice command well done and also getting more important here. And here you can also write the address. There was recently a comment from you guys, yeah, what do I do when I'm left-handed? That's maybe a problem, yes. I think in this case, well, I mean, you can try it with the left hand, or then you use the voice command to put in the GPS. That's also possible. Or it is still possible to get this screen here with the keyboard and then, just enter the letters as you used to. And then there's this armrest. You can put it to the front or the back again and put it up. This is again, very great build quality. You cannot shake it at all. And then you can put your phone there for the cable connection, 1 and 2 USB supplies, and some more room for the key, for example. And this would also be the place for inductive charging. And this top unit is also interesting. First of all, you have here a frameless rear mirror. That's really cool. And then if you look at this top element right there, that also looks so spaceship-alike, for example, putting on the lights. I think a very elegant solution. And you can see some parts here of the Bang & Olufsen sound system, and I can tell you, it gives you goosebumps. Wow, what a 3D surround. But I can tell you, it also gives you goosebumps in your pocket. And by the way, optional also available, the soft close. There it is, the magic, smooth. So what about the rear? Well, those classic sedans, they usually have this lying back seating position, a small or short rear bench. The knees do exactly fit here as tall drivers, and I mean, yeah, no problem to drive with 4 adults, and it's also fairly comfortable in here. Headroom is also okay for my size. The Estate will give you some more headroom while onto the rear, but again, this is not an issue really for tall people here with the sedan. The problem is really with the whole segment here, that it's so long on the exterior, but it doesn't give you any decent room on the interior if you consider the length. So this is a fail for the whole segment, I think. The seats is also very thick. Yeah, that's definitely a drawback, but to show you, you can still easily travel with 4 adults, and you also have decent comfort right here. You also have a rear temperature unit, pretty fancy controls, and also 3rd and 4th USB supply, but with a very big middle tunnel. You do flip the seats right there, those controls. Lower part then with ISOFIX at the outer seats, and then there's a middle armrest you can fold up for some storage room and also for the cup holders. And also you can use the middle part of the seat here as a ski hatch. Let's open the hatch, and when you close it again, by the way, you have to push it quite hard that it does close. Here I can also put a trolley inside, just you can see also the height. This is quite okay still. And then, well, it is actually not that easy to access, but it's actually quite okay for a classic sedan. If you want more versatility, go to the Estate, the Avant. Then, well, flipping the seat is not possible from here. It's just some hanger possibility. You have to go around. 112-volt power supply, by the way. Then you have the ski hatch, as I shown you earlier. And then this would be the maximum setup when you flip all the seats right there, like this. And then you can also load through longer things. And what's pretty cool is that Audi puts in the test vehicles a list of the extras. And there you can see what is how much. Base price 60,000. And then, for example, the business package with the GPS and stuff, really expensive. Then the Bang & Olufsen sound system, 6,000 euros, as I mentioned, that's really heavy. And then you see 1,000 head-up display, matrix LED lights. That all gathers up, and overall we have the pricing of almost 105,000 euros. Ooh. But, I mean, it's very good that they show that in a very transparent way. It's sadly with most of those test vehicles in that segment that they get so much more expensive. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge. Engine comes to life. we start the driving part. And since we are in Germany today, with a little bit more motorway experience than the initial driving review, which I also recommend because we had said earlier the nighttime driving part in that was really very amazing, especially for this vehicle here. So, and we'll first start at about 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour, and later on we'll also have a motorway part where we really hammer it through for the acceleration to show you, and also for the sound insulation at very high speeds. That will be very interesting. You're already at just about 100 kilometers an hour. This car is really super silent and so smooth and sovereign on the road. It's really amazing. As for the assistance systems, you can activate this lane keeping assist. Then the car also keeps itself in the lane. You should always keep your hands on the steering wheel just to show you that the car does what it's actually supposed to do. But again, keep your hands on the steering wheel, and it is an assistance system, of course, and you can maybe relax a little bit more. However, I tend to deactivate that one because I want to, steer myself. And by the way, I'm not braking. In this case, the car realized the traffic sign and also the head-up display, and also here in the digital displays showed me again speed went to 80. Then the car automatically reduced the speed. That's happening when this adaptive cruise control is activated and you have it in the highest trim, because there are several packages of assistance systems and assistance system trims where you can then step up the game step by step. It also depends on what you really want for the assistance systems. To me, one of the most important is, of course, the blind spot monitor that is then integrated in this left or right mirror each. Pretty cool system, and you can very clearly see that. I'll soon also show you it once more. And the thing is, here when driving the car in the city, since we have the optional all-wheel steering here, or the rear axle steering, where it goes, I showed you also earlier, 5% across at slow speeds and 2% parallel in the same direction at higher speeds. This reduces turning circle 1.1 meters, so you can easier steer around the city also when you're in the basement garage, going front and back, and so the car feels then smaller than it actually is. Of course, you cannot deny that it's still a very long car, so at some point when you search a spot to park your car, then you will have problems if you compare it to a smaller car. That's just a natural thing. But steering it around, easing it around, is fairly simpler then. At the moment, I'm also driving in the so-called efficiency mode. This is the mode where the cylinder on, the mild hybrid system would be used also most of the time, or have the best chance that the mild hybrid system is used very well. All the engines now here in the new A6 are equipped with the mild hybrid system, 48-volt board net. So, for example, when you're sailing, then some part of the energy is being gained back, recuperation, but not small scale, not like an electric vehicle. So for the car battery, that is then, for example, taking care of the lights and AC and other electric systems of the vehicle, and then not so much so much power from the engine has to be used for that, and the engine can run free. So, I think partly this is working especially for the diesel, because we have quite good consumption here overall in our test so far, about 7 liters on 100 kilometers, and I think that's fairly good. So, I mean, it's a big car, and with the TFSI, with a petrol engine, 3 liter, we had as a minimum consumption 9 liters. So, and in the middle it would just be about 10. So, with the diesel, when you're going for the diesel instead of the petrol, you save about 3 liters of fuel on 100 kilometers. And I think, well, on the long-term run, that might justify it. The question is always again petrol versus diesel. There are pros and cons about both. So in Europe, the petrol engines also get the particle filters now. In the US, they don't, because they don't have to. So the manufacturers say, why should we make it cleaner when we don't have to? So they don't do it. Yeah, that's reality. And the diesels have the SCR cleaning, so you fill in AdBlue, and then this is also against the NOx emissions, and of course the particle filters. They have been there with the diesels for almost a decade now. So diesels, both particle filters and the SCR cleaning. So overall, the diesel can make sense for you if you're driving really a lot of kilometers. What's the difference? Well, when you approach the throttle, just the very first few seconds, it takes a while, especially when you're in this efficiency mode. So with the petrol engine, that's different. It's already there. It goes faster. But then again, the diesel has so much torque. So when it gets going, then it really hammers it through, and the acceleration figure between the biggest diesel here and the biggest petrol engine so far available to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour, I said earlier, is not a big difference. So maybe it's just approximately half a second where the difference is, and that's really not too much. So there's not a big difference in power. Then just the conceived power is definitely better with the petrol engine. However, you can also have the different driving modes right there. For example, go to the dynamic mode. Then the shifting is set to S, and also the throttle input shifts up later, shifts down earlier. Let's see if there's any steering difference. There's also no one behind me at the moment. Such a good control of this car you have. And when we go to the comfort mode again, yeah, the steering is a little bit lighter maybe. And of course this air suspension, you can see here, this is the comfort mode. When we're going back to the dynamic mode, maybe get a little bit less shaking, but the differences in the modes are not that huge. So maybe you can also just have it in auto mode or something, and then you can switch with the gear selector also between S and D. And let's select S now, because I want to show you an acceleration from 65 to 100. And in the S mode, we also got a more spontaneous response. Now 60. Let's go. Oh, there we go. Of course, the petrol engine has a better sound than the diesel here. But again, really good power also at higher speeds from the diesel. Great autobahn vehicle, you can really relax. Then this optional air suspension we've mounted here today is of course a dream of a ride. Really like a carpet ride, but not as soft as in the Mercedes E-Class. So Audi already has a base setup which is rather sportier. So the BMW 5 Series and the Audi A6 are the sporty approach already in the base models. And if you want to go sporty with the E-Class by Mercedes, then you have to go, for example, for an E43. So that's the basic difference. The E-Class and the base setup is, I would say, definitely more softer, and also more in general set more on the relaxing, comfortable ride. This is also super comfortable, but just how they've tried to find their own niche, The E-Class also feels a little bit more relaxing, sound installation wise. This one here is really superb, yes. I feel that the E-Class is top in the segment as for the sound installation with the optional sound installation pack. All the pressed test vehicles we drive always are usually equipped with a lot of stuff. We really have a hard time getting some mid-spec cars. If we can, then we always do that because it's very interesting. But then they are always equipped, with the additional sound installation package, as is this vehicle here. And that means that you can drive really, really fast. Soon we're driving even faster, and then you can still hear that it will remain very, very silent here in that vehicle. So that's definitely a pretty cool thing. About the all-wheel drive, by the way, I can also see it here in the middle display. You can see that well from your perspective, but there's a visualization on how much power is being put on or distributed. And since we have the classic 3-liter TDI here with the big horsepower spec, we also have the classic quattro all-wheel drive. That means a base setup of 40% in the front, 60% in the rear distribution of power. And I can really see that predominantly rear wheels are being used, a little bit rear bias, but always the front wheels are always attached. So this is a permanent classic all-wheel drive, together with a converter automatic gearbox. I feel that the converter automatic gearbox is really great, yes. The S-tronic dual clutch transmission in the petrol engines or in the general smaller engines might be a little bit faster at times, but it feels also a little bit more hectic, you know. This one here, the classic converter 8-speed gearbox, feels more sovereign, more a little calmer, you know, in a way. And I also think it's more durable. Also, the permanent all-wheel drive is more durable. However, it maybe consumes more fuel. The Quattro Ultra, so-called, for the combination with the dual clutch transmission. Okay, that gets a little bit, again, dual clutch transmission in combination with the Quattro Ultra is front-wheel drive plus rear-wheel drive on demand. And here the Tiptronic converter gearbox is combined with classic all-wheel drive Quattro. Quattro is just the brand name, but they have different, I think they mean like 5 different Quattro systems, which are all, you know, different, working a little bit differently. So I feel this is a big advantage of the diesel then, because we have still the real all-wheel drive and the real converter gearbox. To me, that's more durable, I think, than the other thing. However, if you primarily use it on road use, you can also think that, you know, front-wheel drive is somewhat okay. But just to give you that info. Now again, dynamic mode, sports shifting, and we'll start at about 40 kilometers and just hammer it through. You can see again the acceleration and also then how it behaves at higher speeds. So now we are at 200 kilometers an hour or 125 miles per hour, and it's still such a relaxing drive. Of course there are some wind noises, but I mean, that's maybe like you drive 100 in a normal vehicle. Look here, lane change at 200, how stable the car still is, air suspension. Here in the, you know, little bit of play with the steering wheel. I think at BMW, they managed to have that a little bit better. Now, hammering the brakes. Wow, what a braking performance, really good. And it wasn't really, you know, hammering the brakes through. It was just a slight push on it. So I really like how the brakes are reacting pretty fast as well. That's really cool. Yeah, I think, you know, steering wheel wise, here in those, you know, low angle situations, there I like the BMW 5 Series a little bit better, because it gave me a more natural steering feel. That's where the BMW is best, in the natural steering feel. The Mercedes is, I think, a little bit too lazy in the steering. You have to steer too much. There I like the Audi better because it is more progressive. You don't have to steer so much, you know. That's good in the city when you're turning it around, and also good for sporty driving. With BMW, it's a little bit less progressive, but then again gives you a more natural sporty feeling. So at the moment, I think I would maybe combine the sound installation of the E-Class, the steering wheel of the BMW, the progressive character of the Audi steering. And well, suspension-wise, of course, they are all really great. If you want more comfort, then the air suspension of the Mercedes E-Class will do great. Then the BMW 5 Series suspension is also superb, even with the normal, you know, adaptive suspension, which is not the air suspension. It's so great that it feels like an air suspension, like the air suspension we have right here. So then you don't have to say you must have the air suspension. You can also go with the, you know, in the 5 Series with the normal adaptive suspension, and you'll be just fine. So, I mean, all of those 3 vehicles are really great cars. no question. Then they all have their specialties for sure. In general, of course, about this very segment here, if you compare it, for example, to mid-size sedans, yeah, you have some more long-term comfort here. But for most people, mid-size sedans will already be enough. Yeah, it will remain somewhat more exclusive, but the thing is that this upper mid-size class here, or this business class vehicles, mainly they grow in size, so you don't have so much more room on the inside. The package is just worse. It grows really much on the outside without offering you so much more room on the inside. If you compare it, for example, here now to an Audi A4, or BMW 3 Series against 5 Series, you will find some differences, but they don't justify the price for real, if you think about it in a logical sense. For me, when I drive those cars here, I like an upright seating position in an SUV, of course. You don't have that in this very classic building style of those sedans. However, this one here also makes you really relaxed, although you can drive it very powerful. But then when you approach the next parking lot or something, you think about, oh, come on, that's so annoying. I mean, it might be different, especially for our friends in the US, when you have the big parking lots and you maybe have a wide driveway in front of your house or something, then it's no problem. But especially here for European taste, those business class sedans are often too big then for parking. That's of course a problem. But then again, if you're on the motorway, then you have the great suspension and the great sound insulation and those very comfortable seats. By the way, good long-term comfort here. So although we don't have the upright seating position, this is probably among the best comfort you can have with non-upright sitting seats. So I think also Audi is at the moment, from the seat form, among the leading car manufacturers, especially also for tall people. Often people ask me, what about tall people? Because we have the Mercedes vehicles are often not especially suitable for taller people, and also the Asian manufacturers usually don't build so much for tall people. Yeah, I mean, why would they? In this respect, for the tall people, for example, Audi and Volkswagen are usually most suitable. And seat form-wise, Volvo is to me also among the leading brands always. So if you think about the competitor of this one, would also be the Volvo S90. And that one also has a superb comfort. So the Audi S90 and the Audi A6, from the seat form, at the moment my favorite, as I've been driving all of those. Here, by the way, you can see again in the tunnel how it looks like at night. You can also change the view again. Here, the night assistant, night view, pretty fancy, right? I mean, I've tested that also, but in our nighttime drive, I'm not really sure about all of it. Maybe someone uses it. I wouldn't, I think. And also the wide GPS map you can pick, and of course you can change it around again. So pretty interesting what you're going to do with those digital instruments, for sure. So there we have also the blind spot monitor, this yellow indicator I showed you earlier. Again, driving is really this favorite discipline of this vehicle. And of course, as I said earlier, more Autobahn drive for you here today, since we had some more agile stuff last time. And I'm not really hammering hard. I just have slightly on the throttle, and they have so much torque. That's of course a big advantage of this diesel. I mean, look, we're just about 2,000 RPM. And stays so silent and calm. Now we are 180 kilometers an hour, and we are still at about 2,000 RPM. So that's really amazing. And the interesting thing is really about those Volkswagen Group diesels or the Audi diesels. I mean, the initial cheat device came from Audi themselves, and so many other manufacturers have been cheating with their diesels. probably they all have. But Audi and Volkswagen, they were actually the stupidest, it was probably the stupidest way to do it. That was actually, the main problem. And now everyone doesn't see that, this cheating is really bad what they did. But on the factual clean side, their diesels here are still among the best and the cleanest. So that's really a strange thing, There are some official tables also where you can see that, for example, those Renault and Nissan diesels, they have 3 times the pollution figures of different stuff than the diesels here. And with the pressure also from Dieselgate, you have to get the SCR cleaning and the new regulations and stuff. So that's something before, the old diesels, they were really dirty and stuff, but now the new diesels are, in comparison to the other engines, also relatively clean. And 10 years ago everyone said, I don't care, I drive a diesel. And now people are saying, I don't buy a new diesel. I can understand it, I don't buy a new diesel because it's not clean, but it's actually the other way around. So I can really understand the hatred toward diesel and also especially towards Audi and Volkswagen. But again, if you check the factory side, if you want to buy a diesel here now today, the ones they offer are still among the best. And I also really like the big BMW diesel, the 3-liter diesel. That one is the most fuel-saving one. You maybe remember in the BMW 5 Series Touring, we had the big 3-liter diesel with about 5 liters on 100 kilometers consumption. That was super amazing. So the big BMW diesels also really good performing. But then if you think about the customer experience and the driving fun, for the driving fun, I still myself also prefer the petrol engines because they give you some more drive from the lower RPM regions on. And I'm really glad that we also, at least in Europe, get the particle filters now that makes those petrol engines also a little bit cleaner. And of course, we have the alternative drivetrains we have also been reporting on Autogefühl. Just to give you some background, I think it's always good just to gather some more information before talking about the certain topics. And usually those solutions are never black or white. So the truth is usually something in the middle, in between. Yeah, really getting complicated with those drivetrains nowadays. Here when standing still, of course, you also somewhat hear the difference when you drive the diesel, and the petrol sounds somewhat more refined. However, they manage that you don't hear this typical diesel nailing that much. So if you would just enter this car blindfold, wouldn't have heard what it is, you don't hear the difference directly. You would check the RPMs, see, it is a really low RPM that's supposed to be a diesel car. Now we can also go back to the normal D mode or also go back to this efficiency mode. Let's see how the consumption changed when we were doing some high-speed stuff here now. Where's it gone? There it is. So the long-term consumption wasn't touched that much. The short-term was about 8.5. So you can see when you really hammer it, it goes up like 1.5 liter or something. Well, as I said earlier, you can drive that still with about 7 liters, and for such a big car, I think that's still pretty much okay. So I'll head on to the countryside a little bit. Here again, how great it is reacting, and also at the rather lower speeds, I feel that the rear axle is also giving me some more agility. That is really cool. So really amazing to feel a car that is that long and still being able to be driven in such an agile way. Pretty amazing. So, as I told you earlier, there's so much to tell about this very vehicle. Yes, it's a very old conservative concept from the whole thinking of how to build a car. Then they've put so much new tech in this vehicle. You also feel it by driving. And overall, the sovereignty of this vehicle is really overwhelming. Overwhelming, just to, if you haven't understood the word. Sorry, sometimes I don't speak that clear. I'm very sorry for that. But I hope you got all the all the major points for the driving. What do you think? And now to our conclusion here today with the all-new Audi A6. Well, from the exterior, I think a refined evolution. Overall, a very strong one, but still in an elegant way. It is a very conservative classic building style, but I think they found some very nice styling elements. Of course, if you want a little bit sportier, then you want rather go in the Audi A7 direction. You know, A6, A7, A8, they are all very similar cars with just, some different niche, inside this segment. Interior, well, I mean, the package is not that good. That's counting for all of this segment vehicles here. Of course, you have plenty of room, especially in the front, also in the rear, but considering the length of the vehicle, we also, of course, have cars which are way shorter and still have the same room on the inside. Definitely for a normal, low seating position, it's one of the best comfort seats there is available, especially in this building form. Among the Volvo seats, that's how I experience it. But Audi really leading in comfort at the moment, especially in the the last few years. As for the seating form together with Volvo. As for the seat surface, of course, as I told you earlier, fabric base. But other than that, Audi is in this case the worst manufacturer when it comes to offering animal skin alternatives. In the higher trim levels, they almost offer nothing. As for the controlling concept, you can, of course, argue about that. I still like to have separate climate knobs. However, if you then compare it to the E-Class or the 5 Series, the infotainment system here is somewhat then better, from the software and the intuitiveness. So, and of course, the styling integration is really well done here as well. Sometimes, of course, maybe even here a little bit too complicated. Driving-wise, what a great discipline, what a great Autobahn vehicle. So silent, so smooth, also with the real all-wheel drive and the converter automatic gearbox here today. If you want a diesel, this one is still a very good one. The consumption was also quite reasonable for such a big vehicle. The petrol engine will, of course, give you a little bit more fun because the acceleration from the from standstill, from the low RPM areas is a little bit better. The diesel then later has the better torque and it also has this very calm ride also at higher speeds. So it also depends on how many kilometers you are going per year. Overall, it is a very impressive car with all the small cons and the small pros we have there. That's what we deliver you here on Autogefühl. But this one, again, I mentioned that in the first review, I think that could be best in segment at the moment. But again, it depends also on the personal choice. If you want the most soft ride, then the normal Mercedes E-Class will be the best for you. If you want the most sporty, natural driving feeling, then the BMW 5 Series will be the best for you. And this one here, definitely a tech fest. So feasting on technology, a lot of different elements that are really very interestingly done, and the driving part was definitely also most convincing.
So which one shall it be? The biggest comfort focus still has the Mercedes E-Class with air suspension, but just suspension-wise. However, the seating comfort is better with Audi A6, BMW 5 Series and Lexus ES. The 5 Series now offers the high-grade perforated Sensatec seats, which are segment-leading. As for driving fun, BMW 5 Series and Audi A6 lead the way. The Lexus ES now also has better user interface, and they also offer the very nice NuLuxe sustainable leatherette seats in so many different colors. Especially the F Sport seats are very comfortable, also for tall drivers. All these exclusive vehicles give you a great sense of sophistication, no doubt. Lexus is the most famous one for its reliability. That's the most important factor for it. If driving fun is more important, the Germans rather take over. Me personally, I would get a BMW 5 Series with 6-cylinder or 6-cylinder PHEV and the new perforated Sensatec seats. I appreciate the driving fun and the cockpit layout. Second pick would be the Audi A6 due to its very good all-round features. However, it's not available without animal skin seats in some markets. The Lexus ES is a buy if you want to buy it and keep it for a very, very long time. The E-Class is still sophisticated and exclusive, but to me the choice still remains with the 5 Series and the A6, and I would check where I can get a better deal. What do you think about my choice, and what's yours?